Good evening, honorable members of council, Chief of Staff Washington, department heads, and members of the public. This evening, there are two budget hearings scheduled: the Wilmington Fire Department at 4:30 p.m., followed by the Wilmington Police Department at 5:30 p.m. I would like to first start by recognizing members of the Finance Committee, their attendance, by doing a roll call. Vice Chair Harley, 4th District.
Maximize it. Up at the
Present. Present.
All right. Councilmember Oliver, 3rd District.
Present.
Councilmember Field, 8th District.
present.
At large, Councilmember Spadola. And then at large, Councilmember Walsh.
Here.
And Council President Congo.
Here.
We'll also like to recognize other council persons in attendance this evening doing a roll call. Councilmember Gray, 1st District.
Present.
Councilmember Darby, 2nd District.
Present.
Councilmember Fields, 5th District. Councilmember
Present.
Councilmember McCoy, 6th District.
Here.
Councilmember Cabrera at large. And Councilmember Mills at large.
Present.
Mayor Pazicki presented a proposed budget to council on March 17th. This proposed budget had a 7.5% property tax rate increase, 5% water rate increase, use of $12 million in ARPA funds for revenues, $10.1 million in a budget surplus. And this budget would have $0 from the tax stabilization fund to balance the overall general fund budget. The proposed general fund budget for the whole city is $176.9 million. This is a $4.2 million increase over last fiscal year. The proposed water sewer fund budget is $82.1 million, and this is a $2.5 million increase over last fiscal year. This is an odd budget year, so the city will have a zero capital budget program. The mayor shared his vision for the intended plan use of the proposed budgetary funds. Now it is council's fiduciary responsibility to review the budget, have budget hearings with the various department heads, and also find a complete plan for the intended use of the city's funds. By charter, council must adopt a balanced budget at least 30 days before the end of the fiscal year. And we must have both an operating ordinance and a water fund ordinance to go forward. Council has shared its priorities with the mayor, which are inclusive of public safety, which includes gun violence prevention programs, citizens oversight review board, to name some, neighborhood stabilization, education, economic development, and improvement to our parks, to name a few. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the world immensely. Nonetheless, the city has received the first installment of the ARPA funds, and we are in anticipation of receiving the second installment in this May or June, for a total allocation of $55 million directly to the city. Council has been collaborating with the administration on a plan of action for these funds, as well as the community. I just want to be clear tonight that the funds used for this budget, this proposed budget is $12 million in ARPA funds. Before I turn it over to Mr. Winkler from OMB, I would like to inform everyone that public comments will be asked at the end of each department's budget hearing. And that we look forward to participation from the public. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. If there's any follow-up information during any of the budget hearings, Ms. Bass-Knight will track and follow up on those requests. I ask that if my colleagues have any questions, as always, please use the raise hand feature. And at this time, I will now turn it over to Mr. Winkler, OMB manager, for a fiscal overview. And then it'll be a introduction by Fire Department Chief Looney. And then it'll be question and answer time from council. This hearing is slated for 60 minutes. Now I turn the floor over to you, Mr. Winkler.
Thank you and good afternoon, Chairman Johnson, and good afternoon to President Congo and members of council. Today, I'll be providing an overview of the FY2023 Fire Department budget. All right, so let's wait for those slides to come up. Okay, could we get the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so excluding the state pension contribution, the proposed FY2023 general fund budget is nearly 23 million, which is up 231,000 or 1% compared to the FY22 budget. Personal services, which account for 81% of the department's budget, are 18.5 million, which is down 150,000 or 0.8%. Conversely, Msne is up with an increase of 216,000 or 28.8% compared to the FY22 budget. Total staffing across all funds is 160 FTE, which is unchanged from FY22. Total authorized strength for sworn officers is 156, which is also unchanged. Next slide, please. All right, let's take a look at some of the major funding changes for FY2023, starting with personal services. Regular salaries are budgeted to increase by nearly $375,000 as per the local 1590 contract and mandatory step increases. In addition, overtime costs are budgeted to increase $370,000 in order to better reflect prior year actuals and ensure minimum staffing requirements are met, while at the same time avoiding the use of rolling bypass. Offsetting these increases is a significant decrease to the pension costs, in total down nearly $944,000. Roughly half of this decrease is in the city-sponsored pensions, which are down $483,000. This is the result of an increase to the state pension pass-through revenues, which act as an offset to the city pension contribution requirements. The county and municipal police fire pension is down as well due to a decline in the required rate for a savings of $460,000. All right, so moving on to Msne, which is up a net $216,000. The largest Msne change is to wearing apparel and safety, which is up $101,000. As state grant funding is no longer available, costs related to the upcoming rookie class have to be absorbed by the general fund. This includes $91,000 for protective gear and $11,000 for new uniforms. Related to this, registration fees are up $70,000, with nearly $32,000 of this increase due to the rookie hiring process, which was also previously grant funded. $17,000 was also added for biennial EMT certification renewal, and $7,500 to provide additional driver training. All right, so moving on, $15,000 has been added to reinstate the Fire Explorer program, which had been temporarily deferred due to COVID. And finally, consultants are down a bit over $26,000, largely due to FY2023 being an off year for the biennial promotional exam. Okay, so those are the major fire department changes for FY2023. If you have any questions specifically related to this, I'm happy to take them now. And if not, I will return the floor to the chair.
All right, Councilmember Oliver, do you have a question for O&B?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was looking at the Fire Explorers program. I had it. I know it was taken out and you said it's reinstated. What was that amount prior?
I believe prior it was also 15,000. I can confirm that for you, but I believe it's unchanged from last year.
We do address it in question number 5.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. I'll wait. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. And there's no further questions for O&B. I will then turn it over to Fire Chief Looney. The floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon, Chairman Johnson and Council President Congo and all other council members attending. And I also have Deputy Chief Gabriel Pabone is also on, along with my Battalion Chief of Support Services, Carl Ziffel. I'd like to thank them for all the time and energy that they put into the budget preparation, along with Andrea Lewis, our fiscal administrator. To begin with, our vision. It is the vision of the Wilmington Fire Department to continue to provide the citizens of the city of Wilmington with the highest level of life safety emergency services and property preservation. This will be accomplished through intense training, public education, prompt responses, and compassionate emergency care. Our performance measures quality assurance of all fire reports and inspections for accuracy, content completion and submission in a timely manner, the continuation of our officer development program, moving towards our next level of national certification for all our present officers, Fire Officer 3 and Fire Officer 4, continuing our firefighter proficiency training, which we do on a monthly basis, along with our cardiokinetics, which is a endeavor that we do each year for evaluation of health and fitness for our firefighters. Contain fire to the room of origin, 90%. Risk reduction for the citizens of Wilmington by continuing various public education programs, fire drills, installation of smoke-free smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, and completing building inspections and pre-plans throughout the city. Identify top 3 priorities. 1, secure funding to continue the renovations to all city fire stations. Replace fire apparatus according to the recommended replacement cycle. Continue with our free smoke and carbon monoxide alarm programs for seniors and needy citizens. Increase our public education programs targeting senior citizens and children. Begin a recruit class. Anytime uniform staffing falls below the 95% of the authorized strength of 156 positions, with an emphasis on ensuring diversity. Continuing the officer development program that was started several years ago. Question 1. Discuss the current vacant positions, specify duration of the vacancy, specify the time frame for filling positions. There are currently 6 vacant positions in the Wilmington Fire Department. December, 1 vacancy occurred. January, we had 1 vacancy, and then February and March, both 2 vacancies in each month. Time frame for filling the positions. FY22, asking for a resolution to hire come the new fiscal year. July 22, begin advertising job openings. September, conduct agility test and written test. October 2022, begin interviews and background checks. November 2022, begin medical evaluations and continued background checks. Come December, conditional offers of employment. January 23 to mid-March 2023 would be the recruit class would be in progress for approximately 14 weeks for their required training.
Chief, I have a question on the vacancy report. So by the time you get to March 2023, how many vacancies would you end? I guess, would you probably be looking at? Would you be looking at maybe a dozen or more by the time you get there? Because I'm looking at 6 in the past quarter. So how many would we have by the time we get to March 2023?
I mean, that's hard to tell. We have numerous individuals, at least 26 to 30, I guess, that have their 20 years that could retire. But when we hire the class, like I said, we're 6 down now. Once we do hire, we always go 5 over just for those attritions while we're going through the academy, or maybe those that don't make it through the academy. We always go 5 over. To predict what my staffing would be by March, it's a little difficult at this time. I do know before July 1st, I'm very confident that I'm potentially going to be at 8 to 9 vacancies, and that doesn't include the 5 over for the academy.
Thank you very much, Chief. And I wanted to make a brief announcement, a housekeeping announcement. If members of the public, if you have a question, again, we'll take public comments and questions at the end of the council questions. So I'll keep you in mind. So I do see who has their hand raised, but if again, the time for questioning is after. All right, Chief, let's move on to question number 2, the impact of this planned merger of the Planning and Land Use Department.
Okay. Considering the new Planning and Land Use Department, discuss any impact to your department. The plans examiner, a consultant who's also shared with L&I, will continue to perform their existing activities and will remain in their current location. FMO staff will relocate to the Emergency Operations Center at 22 South Hill Street. Next slide, please.
Okay. Discuss any proposed changes to any classifications.
Currently discuss any proposed changes to positions. There are no changes or additions to any of our positions.
Moving on to question number 4. Do you discuss the authorized strength and the proposed strength versus the actual strength?
Okay. The authorized strength is 156 uniformed personnel. Currently, the actual strength is 150 uniformed personnel. The budget calls for the FY2023 Fire Academy. Registration fees for the academy are at $31,820. Uniforms for the recruits will be $11,197. And then all their personal protective equipment, that would be their firefighting gear, equates to $91,476.
All right, Chief, moving along. This is a question I do want you to take some time on, because I know it's come up in many previous public safety meetings. Can you discuss the $15,000 budgeted for the Explorers program, what it looks like, the program outlook looks like for the first year, and then obviously, the first year and beyond, what your plans are?
Well, to begin with, we plan on having 10 to 15 young men and women in the program. The program is a career education program. The purpose is to provide experiences to help young people mature and to prepare them to become responsible adults. There's a lot of content to it. It runs the school year, so it would be from September to June. We are currently working on a planned partnership with the Teen Warehouse. We think that will be a vital location to run our program. Just being in the warehouse, the Teen Warehouse, they have so much to offer, and they're very interested in us completing a partnership. We're going to do recruitment through our social media, but we have a Facebook page. We have our own web page that we do recruitment currently for the Fire Academy. It's going to be it'll be an opportunity for young men and women in the city of Wilmington to introduce them to our profession, to our department, and also expose them to other public safety careers. There's an element of community service, which is very important to the program. They're also put into leadership positions. So we give them life skills. In the past, I was part of the program, administering the program along with Director Patrick for approximately 9 years. And we have, at this time, 8 explorers who are now have come on to the Wilmington Fire Department in probably the last 15, 16 years. We're excited. We want to get this program up. We think it's going to be great for the city. These are great careers, and we want to make sure we're getting out there and introducing this career, these public safety careers to the young men and women that are out there and young adults. The ages go from 14 to 20. That is the age range for the Explorer program.
All right, thank you very much, Chief Looney. Now, I promise there will be some questions, as I know there's been great interest on council on this. So there's a few hands raised. Councilwoman Oliver, I believe you're up first.
Sure. No, thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to thank the chief for their free smoke detectors and carbon monoxide program. I advertised it, and I know I received a nice feedback from your guys following up, putting in free smoke detectors and carbon monoxide. So I'd like to give credit where credit's due. So I really appreciate your staff for coming out to the Civic Association meeting and handling their business and giving out all the information to call. And there was a lot of seniors there. And I know a few of them gave me a call and said that they did follow up and install new smoke detectors. So I really appreciate that. My question was, been in contact with Kenyatta and Logan for the warehouse. Do you have a phone number where someone can call who's interested in signing up for the recruitment class?
For the recruitment of the Explorers?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I can give you my phone or my email address. I can send that to you offline.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't want your direct. I was thinking like if I mentioned it to a parent tomorrow, she said they were interested. Do they just call your regular? Do they call the fire marshal? Do they just call the regular fire marshal's number? I wasn't trying to give them your direct number. I was saying, do you have a number I can write down just to give them?
For right now, I'll just give you our main number until we get everything up and running and set up.
That's fine.
I'll just give you 302-576-3950. And then they'll bring that over to me or one of my other staff members, and we'll take care of it from there.
Okay, because that's going to start up in September, you said.
Right. Once we get into the new budget, in July, then we'll start really pushing out what we need to push out. But yes, September, we like to run the school calendar year.
Okay, may I have a follow-up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, for the 6 vacancies, positions, you mentioned, is that due to, because that's quite a few, is that due to retirement or people just being transferred around?
No, it's due to retirements and resignations and a termination.
Okay, thank you. That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Darby, you're up next.
Hello, yes, good evening. I have a few clarifying questions. So this is specifically for the Explorer program, right? Or the Fire Academy program, because there's 2 different programs and I hear them being used as if they're the same thing. Because from my understanding, the Fire Explorer is actually for teenagers and you put young men and women. So I'm trying to just confirm if you're talking about adults, young adults, or if you're talking about young, like teenagers.
We're talking teenagers, the ages of 14 to 20 years of age for the Explorer program.
Okay, yep. So for the Explorer program, 10 to 15 young teenagers, young girls and boys will be a part of this. You're going to partner with the Teen Warehouse.
Yes.
Also, could we make sure that, I don't know what this would look like, a certain number, a certain percentage of them are actually from the city of Wilmington? Because what I don't want to see happen with this program, that it just ends up being a program for teenagers of firemen and women who who's in our fire department now. So a lot of times when programs like this exist, it just becomes another program for the kids or the people who work there to be a part of. And I want to really make sure that kids who are from the city, in the city, get this opportunity. So is that something that you'll consider, that at least, I don't mind like children being a part of these programs, but I just want to make sure a certain percentage or portion is actually people from the city of Wilmington, kids from the city of Wilmington.
Yeah, ma'am, that's our intention to, target the teenagers in the city of Wilmington. That's why we're trying this partnership with the Teen Warehouse. And I do know in the past, yes, there have been sons of, firefighters that have been in the program. It's been a handful, but no, it's not our mission to keep it to just, children of members of the fire department. I agree with you, and we will make sure that is not what takes place.
Yes. And yeah, I don't mind them being a part, but it can't be all of them. And then have you guys considered working with the youth from the city summer program, being a part of or even the summer youth employment program, being a part of the Explorer, having a component of that?
I have not explored that avenue, but I mean, if you have information that you can provide us, I mean, I'm sure that's something we can review.
Okay, yeah, I'll be happy to do that. And then my last piece is actually about the Fire Academy. So last budget hearing, there were 2 programs talked about, which one was the Explorer program, which is for not young adults, but for teenagers. Mm-hmm. And then the Fire Academy was for adults. And last year, the chief talked about partnering with, I can't remember exactly who or what, but partnering to be able to get that young adult population engaged and ready to prepare to be fire individuals. So
Yes, ma'am. We did mention the Explorer program and a civilian fire academy. The civilian fire academy, our intent there is for 18 years of age and older. It would be an academy where we meet one night a week or one Saturday morning a week for about 8 weeks, just to kind of introduce them. It'd be more of a recruitment and introducing them to this career field. I'm not really sure what was stated in the past. That's our intention right now with the civilian academy. That's also included in this 15,000 for that budget line.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my next question. What was the budget for the civilian fire academy? So it's mixed in with the Explorer program.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. No, thank you. And will there be another question down the line about recruitment and retention later, or should I ask that now?
I think that's now. I don't think we really have anything else.
I didn't have a specific question now about recruitment coming up that I'm aware of.
Well, may I follow up, Chair?
Yes, but just be mindful, council member, that we're dealing with budgetary issues. The outstanding question about the recruitment updates will probably need to go to Public Safety Committee.
So that was, I didn't even get a chance to ask my question.
Okay. Floor is
All
yours.
right. Yes, thank you. So have you guys thought of, or I haven't seen it in your budget, in establishing, using money out of a budget line to establish a recruitment and retention unit? So the police, our Wilmington Police Department, they have about, I think, 3 to 4 recruiters to help them with recruitment. And I don't see anywhere in the budget line for the fire department to have at least one recruiter focused solely on recruitment, specifically for the city of Wilmington and focusing on diversity. So I wanted to know if you would be open to the idea of at least starting a unit maybe with one person and then growing it from there. And that has something to do with the budget. That was my question.
Very well.
Presently at this time, no, that has not been discussed or, for adding a position. I mean, currently right now, we're handling that all on an administrative staff we're utilizing for our recruitment. We have a small recruitment committee. But at this time, we're not looking. That would be more for the mayor's office when in regards to adding positions. But currently at this time, we have no plans of that.
Okay, no, I would just love to see it in the budget. Any public safety position, military, police, they all have recruiters dedicated to recruitment. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Vice Chair Harley, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone. I think my question was answered, but just in case it wasn't, I wanted to know the program that's starting in the school, is that new or is that something that has already been implemented?
Councilwoman, I'm not sure what program you're talking about in the school. We have a public education individual who does all our public education in the schools, community centers, if that's what you're inferring.
The program that you said that is starting in September. I'm sorry,
That's the Explorers program. Yes, that's all held right here within the Wilmington Fire Department.
And it has always been a program?
FY19 we stopped.
FY19, the program was ceased, but prior to that, the program was up and running for probably 12 to 15 years, possibly.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say, I really appreciate y'all bringing it back. I remember council, I believe, speaking on that as it related to the police academy. And so I wasn't sure if this was something that was already ongoing or not, but just the fact that we are introducing these programs in high school to get as many students involved in the firefighter just being interested in becoming a firefighter. I just wanted to commend you on that because I really believe that is what's needed, because this is a career and it's a career that they can start thinking about in high school. So thank you. I just wanted to compliment the fire department on bringing that back. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Councilmember Walsh. Councilmember Walsh.
Yeah, sorry. Chief, just piggybacking on what Councilmember Darby was talking about when you were giving the various ages for programs being offered by your department. Isn't it also true that 18-year-olds can apply to be a firefighter?
Yes, those explorers that are 18 years of, or older, graduate high school or have a GED and meet all requirements, yes, they're by all means, they can apply for the Wilmington Fire Department when we're in the hiring process.
Have we ever had one?
Yes, ma'am. We've had a couple that have applied. And like I said earlier, there was 7 or 8 we currently have on the department, which is a good number. But yeah, I'm almost positive it's 8 now from our explorers. From the initiation of our Explorer program to now, we have currently 8 firefighters.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
may I?
yes, please.
So they participated in the Explorer program, but did they come straight from the Explorer to the fire department? So they might have been 18, 19, 20 years old?
No, we did not. I'm sorry. We did not have that I'm aware of anyone that came right at 18 that was an explorer into the department. Some of those explorers that have come on, they were in their, I do believe in their 20s, 21 and older.
Okay, thank you.
I can find that out just by asking, but I'm not real positive if one of our explorers was 18 or 19. I don't remember such.
I was simply curious about that because some people get very nervous when they hear that 18-year-olds can apply for this.
Right.
And I'm sure it just amounts the maturity level that one has at that age.
True, that definitely comes into play. I mean, 21 is obviously is an age, probably a more suitable age. I mean, because, you're going to get some life experience from 18 on, college, military, a career. But I can check in to see if we've actually hired somebody at 18 that was an explorer.
All right, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I believe Council President Congo has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Earlier in the presentation, you mentioned that your cardio kinetics
Yes.
program. Can you explain that to us, please, what that involves?
The cardio kinetics, it's an annual program. It's administered by, one of our battalion chiefs. All individuals on the fire department participate in physical fitness. They're placed on a treadmill where they get a 12 lead EKG, and there's physical trainers that are coming from the company called Cardio Kinetics. You're on the treadmill. They work you, get your heart rate up, your blood pressure up. They're looking for any abnormalities that may come about on the EKG. You're also there to do push-ups, sit-ups, stretching exercises or stretching evaluations. This program has been going on for, Chief Zippel, do you remember how long?
Quite a while.
For quite a while. In each age group, the employee, depending on their age, has to, they have to meet certain benchmarks with their run, their treadmill time, their push-ups, their sit-ups, and their stretching.
Okay, and what happens if they don't meet those benchmarks?
There's nothing punitive if the employee doesn't meet those benchmarks. They're given guidance by the physical trainer that's there on how to improve, but there's no disciplinary action, nothing punitive.
Fair. Thank you. I have a couple more questions, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
For for our free smoke alarm program, how do we advertise that? What's budgeted for that, for the advertising for that?
Well, we advertise it, it's on the city website. We also, in all of our press releases, we push out to all our media outlets after a incident, our smoke detector hotline, the city website is included in it, and some other safety messages. And then when we're just, our suppression companies are out on the street, if they come across a resident or, you know, a dwelling that needs smoke detectors, they take care of it out there. We partner with the Red Cross, and we do sound the alarm events throughout the year, and we try to canvass large sections of different areas of the city. We also, after every incident, our fire marshal or our fire prevention division, along with all our suppression personnel, the guys and girls that are working on the engine and ladders, we go out and target the area where the incident was, and we go door to door, handing out fire safety information, along with looking for, checking on smoke detectors. Budget line, I would have to ask Deputy Chief of Bones on right now. He may have some more clarity. That program is administered through his department.
Good.
Okay, while he's looking for that, just two more questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Another one for job openings. How do we promote and what's budgeted for us, your department, for advertising for job openings? And earlier when you mentioned that there are no punitive, nothing happens if a firefighter does not reach that benchmark of being able to do push-ups or whatever your benchmarks are. I guess, firefighting being such a physically demanding job, do you think that we should move towards requiring our firefighters to be physically fit? Because I know initially they have to be, but it seems like once they become a firefighter, those requirements kind of go by the wayside, unless I'm mistaken.
That would be something that obviously we would have to address for our collective bargaining agreement with Local 1590. But, I'm obviously a proponent in, our men and women being in, good physical shape. But at the present time, on the management side, we're unable to, enforce any of that due to our, the collective bargaining agreement. That would be nice to move towards that, to have, physical fitness program, but at the present time, we don't have anything that's in place to address that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay. Council Member Mills, please, this is your first round questions.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Kind of in line with what Mr. President was just asking in reference to the failed tests. So if they fail the test, are they required to retake the test, Chief?
No, Councilman, they're not. They're given, guidance on how to improve cardio, their stretching, their their center core, their core, building strength in their core. They're just given guidance from the cardiokinetics physical trainer.
Okay. Is there a number of tests that they can fail a certain amount, or this can happen year after year?
I mean, this could happen year after. What's that?
The only thing is, so during some of the tests, we have identified actual physical disabilities with people that have actually either A, sent them to a cardiologist, or B, forced to retire because of medical condition identified during this test.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Darby. Councilmember Darby.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute and couldn't. But my question was just about going back to the programs. Are you guys able to create like some type of document or chart explaining each program, the age groups? So like Fire Explorer, and then explain what it is, the age groups, and then you could do the civilian academy training and then explain the age groups. Because when I think of Fire Explorer, I think of teenagers, and you keep saying, like, I keep hearing the word adult. So I'm just trying to understand the programs because I want to be able to articulate that to my constituents and people I know to join. So I want to make sure I have a clear understanding on both of the programs. Would you be able to provide that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and as a council person, I can also reach out to the department if I want to do like installation of the detectors and stuff, right?
Yes, you can have a resident that needs a detector. You can give them the information. The smoke detector hotline is 302-571-4583. And that, like I said, that program is administered through the fire marshal's office. And they can also go, if you want to direct somebody, you can direct them to the City of Wilmington website where there's information regarding the smoke detector and carbon monoxide alarm program.
Oh, okay, perfect. And then another thing, it is budget related. It's in regards to, and I don't know if there's a question about it or not, but I know we have been talking about it offline, but I want to just make sure that I talk about this on record in regards to budgeting, is accreditation. So one part that's really important with accreditation, and I'm glad that we brought up about firefighters not meeting benchmarks. I didn't know that was a thing. I'm in the National Guard. If I don't pass my PT test every year, people get discharged for not being able to be fit. Or if you don't know how to shoot a weapon, if you don't qualify every year, then you get disqualified, you get discharged, like you get out of the military. So like with the accreditation process, when they look at fire departments, they look at all of those policies and procedures in regards to who qualifies to be a fire person, how do you remain one? They look at all of those policies and procedures. So I think this is another example. I could think of many of why we need the accreditation and why that's important. And I know we're working on legislation and trying to figure out some numbers with the chief. But I know it's not in the budget now, but hopefully in the future, once we get those numbers now, we can have an accreditation process that will look at all of those policies and procedures and make sure that we have a fire department that's actually in shape and able to do the job that they're supposed to do. So I just wanted to hit on the accreditation piece for the record.
All right. Thank you very much, Council Member. So Chief, I would like to turn your attention to question 6. This is about the overtime budget line. This is a $370,000 increase over last fiscal year. Can you explain the increase and why it's justified?
Yes, Chairman. Overtime has been increased by $370,000, and it's to better reflect prior year actuals and ensure minimum staffing requirements are met while avoiding, any use of rolling bypass that was mentioned earlier. The current budget was an estimate with our new shift. The proposed budget is based on actuals and assumes that we will have full strength by mid-March 2023. There are several variables that cannot be accounted for, such as vacancies, long-term illness and injuries, parental leave, pandemics. The next part of the question was in regards to specified mechanisms in place to control sick time so that it doesn't immensely impact overtime. The department is obligated to follow Article 7 of the collective bargaining agreement for utilization of sick leave. Doctor notes after 3 units off, doctor notes for absence before or after a holiday, double doc sick leave for multiple absences, sick leave abuse patterns.
Okay. All right. Moving on to question number 7. Can you explain the approximately $180,000 for the consultant line?
Yes, Chairman. List of our vendors, list of vendors and specify any of the vendors. Year to date, you have expended to just 50% of your consultant account line. Please share if any funds can be encumbered for FY23 or potential savings for FY22. Our list of vendors, Target Solutions. Target Solutions provides the department with online fire and EMS required training for certifications, department scheduling, online forms and documents for our department. Our state of Delaware email, cardiokinetics, physical fitness evaluation, network consultants, tests for recruits, which hasn't been selected at this point, and Code Solutions Incorporated, which is our consultant, our fire plans examiner for the Fire Prevention Division. All FY22 funds have been encumbered and will be invoiced before the end of the fiscal year. This fiscal year, we have obligated more than what we had been budgeted and had to transfer $18,000 and carried forward from FY21 $15,000 into the line to cover expenses.
All right, Chief, can you explain approximately $180,000 for wearing safety and apparel? This is about $100,000 increase over last fiscal year.
Yes, Chairman. That's question number 8. Specify, it says discuss the $180,000 requested for wearing apparel and safety. It's up $101,000 over prior years. Specify the frequency for replacing WFD and equipment. Specify if any grants are available to assist with the purchasing of protective gear. And year to date, you've expended just 50% of your wearing and apparel safety account line. Please share if any funds can be encumbered. All right, the increase of $91,476 is for the new recruit class. The frequency for replacing WFD's gear and equipment. Gear at a minimum needs to be replaced every 10 years. Our gas meters need to be replaced in FY23. All of our apparatus has MOLE gas meters that we use on outside and inside gas leak incidents, and we have to have our meters. After so many years, the meters need to be replaced just from manufacturer specs. Other equipment is replaced on an as-needed basis. There's an Assistance to Firefighter grant program through FEMA as it pertains to just say our personal protective gear. The city of Wilmington wouldn't meet the priorities for limited funding due to our equipment replacement cycle. We have a very aggressive equipment replacement cycle, for the safety of our men and women. So we would not be, we wouldn't list high on the priority to be awarded the grant. 98% of our wearing apparel and safety has already been encumbered, and 67% of uniforms have been encumbered with available balance of $9,000 for FY22.
Okay. And Council President has a question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, going back to question 7, are any of the vendors that your department used, are any of them DBEs?
No, what's that called? No. No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, Chief Looney, moving on to question number 9. And we are running a little bit short on time, so I want to leave some time for public comment. So
okay.
Just know that. So number 9, can you discuss the travel and conference fee account lines, $92,000 increase?
Yes. Our registration line, Emt Renewal. This is for our National Registry Emergency Medical Technician research that we go through every year for our personnel, $17,000. We're going to schedule a driver operator course at $7,500 for approximately 15 personnel. This ICA Incident Command 400 is part of our officer development program for officers to continue on in our officer development program that's been established. Instructor 2 is $5,000. That also is an important part of our officer development program. Lakeview Symposium, that's $3,000. Last year was our first annual Lakeview Symposium that we put on department. It was honoring, or for our 3 line of duty deaths 5 years ago. This symposium was a training exercise that was offered outside the state, inside the state. It was lessons to be learned, and it is our intention to continue doing this symposium moving forward. It's a great training opportunity for others, and we're looking to bring in some guest speakers to discuss some of our leadership topics and strategy and tactics type curriculum. The recruit class, the registration for a recruit class is $31,820, and all other training tuition reimbursement as per the CBA collective bargaining agreement, $38,500. As it relates to travel, our fire prevention division, our fire investigators, inspectors, there's various courses that they need to attend that are required for their position. National Fire Academy, Maryland Fire and Rescue, so that incorporates some travel for them along, hotel reservations and such. The FDIC, this is something that we've had in the past, but in the last 2 years, we did away with it due to the pandemic, and that's for administrative senior fire officers. It's a conference. It's an international conference, and there's a lot of classroom on leadership, a lot of networking. There's a lot of product or apparatus displays, new and up and coming products for the firefighters that we'd like to send at least 2 of our administrative staff officers to the conference to attend. This is something that we put in this year that wasn't in before. The Fire Department Training Network, FDTN, personnel from suppression will attend hands-on firefighter training. The class will be advertised to all personnel with the exception of probationary firefighters, and members will be chosen from each platoon by a lottery. This week-long training is designed to replicate most fireground situations during an actual response. Multiple training and burn buildings are designed to provide realistic firefighting environment. That's something that we weren't able to attain or attend in this area. So this is a nationally known program, and we want to be able to get 2 guys and 2 personnel in the summer, 2 personnel in the spring and in the fall to go out there, get their hands on this training, and then bringing it back to our personnel as a train the trainer type program.
Chief Looney, just kind of moving along because again, we are running a little short on time. Can we skip question 10 again? These budget previews, budget PowerPoints will be available on the City of Wilmington budget website. Okay. And I'd like to move to question 11. Can you explain the contracted maintenance, that account line?
Yes, sir. Discuss the plan used for $124,000 budgeted for contracted maintenance repairs to buildings and equipment. Repairs miscellaneous funds are used to maintain 2 Marine units and also our drones that we're currently operating. Marine 7 is currently out of order for annual maintenance, and when it returns, Fireboat 7, our large firefighting boat, will be pulled out for maintenance. The increase of $3,000 is for the UAV maintenance, which was not in our previous budget for our drone operations. Repairs to equipment, we projected a $7,000 decrease in FY2023 due to new equipment that is covered by warranty. Repairs to buildings and structures, this is used to maintain 7 fire stations. Several fire stations have unfunded projects such as carpet and LED light conversions, and we're going to be using remaining FY22 funds for these projects. State bond bill for FY22, we received a $1 million for the purchase of an engine.
Okay. Let's move to question 14, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Can you discuss the amount of fees collected for fiscal year 2019, 2020, 2021, and year to date?
Yes, sir. FY 2019, 670,783. FY 2020, 992,658. FY 2021, 712,456. And year to date, FY 2022, 666,573.
Okay, now what's the difference for are a lot of these building permits?
Yes, these are the fees that are collected through our fire prevention division. Permits, building or submittal of plans for construction, new construction, tenant fit outs. These are fees for fire reports. These are also fees for all of our permits that are required throughout the city and the city businesses. This is the money that is gathered.
So that drastic increase due is to a large amount of new construction in the city?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And like I said, this is just a year to date. If Deputy Chief Pabon wanted to add on, there is a lot of projects that have been submitted that haven't even broke ground yet. And there's plenty more that are, have been discussed with our fire marshal's office that haven't even been submitted yet. So yes, that's why you see the increase.
Mm-hmm. Actually, would you mind, Chief? I want to go back to question number 12 just briefly. Just talking about, we talk about how busy the department is. I noticed there's approximately $600,000 in grant name funds available, I guess, to be spent.
Yes.
Is that an amount going to be spent down for the end of fiscal year, or?
No, this won't be spent down by the end of the year. We do have a plan for this grant and aid funds. As you can see here, replacement of our non-functioning station alerting systems in our fire stations at an estimate of $220,000. Also, our SCBAs, or our self-contained breathing apparatus, that are personnel aware when they are engaged in structural firefighting. We are looking to buy the MSA, which is the actual SCBA that we have in place in the department. It's a lunar piece of it. It's a
search and rescue device that would locate a trapped firefighter in a dwelling if there was a collapse or if he was missing within a building. It would actually pinpoint where he is for rapid recovery.
And then we currently have a assistance to firefighter grant. We did submit for it's called a phase 2 trailer. Draeger is a international company that does a lot of work in the industrial firefighting, firefighting business, air packs, et cetera, But this trailer will be the first of its kind anywhere around, here, especially with the city of Wilmington, the Wilmington Fire Department. And it's an advanced structural fire attack mobile trailer. We're hoping we get it. This was an item or recommendation in our NIOSH report from several years ago. Our lack of structural firefighting training. We think this is a good fit for our department. We're very confident that we will be successful with the grant, and we have to match amount of $18,000 for the grant. The $100,000 to $150,000 we're working right now, with the mayor's office to secure a site. We do have a site in mind. With that, we're going to have to do, clearing of the site, preparing the ground for the trailers, and this will be the initial stages of getting a dedicated training center for our department, which is, needs to be done. It's very important. It's part of our, vision going forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Chief. And now moving to question 16. Is there any comment on the proposed 2% reduced plan? Chief. Okay. Chief of Staff Washington.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so we really went through several iterations of this budget before it was presented to council. And, we are, taking your question very seriously, but it's a conversation that I'm going to need to have with the chief, because any further reduction could obviously impact his ability to deliver services for the city of Wilmington. So I take that very seriously, and we will, take our time and explore that and get back to council. And this will, not to blow it off, but it's probably going to be a similar response with the other departments that come before you.
And so for this instance, would a reduction include maybe the Fire Explorers program will be on the
Yes, yes, because I believe the focus was on Msne.
Yes.
Understood.
Yes.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Chief. Now I'm going to kick it to the public. Is there any comments or questions from members of the public? I see one hand raised, but I'm not sure if that person is still here. Donald Farrell.
Yes, I am. I have a question, and it is dealing with the WPD calls for service for drug overdose. Do fire department personnel respond to all calls for service involving drug overdose? And next, are drug overdose calls for service classified differently?
Excuse me, you said Wilmington PD, right? I'm sorry.
No, I said, well, I'm sorry.
Point of order.
The Wilmington FD.
Yeah, I can't clarify his question. I guess we'll see where he's getting at the end.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And I'd like to know, has there been an increase in calls for service involving drug overdose? Do you know how many calls for service there were for drug overdose for the last fiscal year? And what is the total cost for responding from the fire department side? And how much of the budget is consumed by calls for service involving drug overdose? And lastly, I'd like to say, because there is a drug overdose epidemic in our city, especially in certain neighborhoods, it would be nice to see if the fire department would include as one of the risk reduction metrics, drug overdose prevention, and perhaps maybe assist in distributing Narcan in the impacted, affected communities. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Farrell. And similar to other committees, I know the police fire chief may not have the questions ready to be answered, but Ms. Bass Knight sitting here to my right will make sure these questions are answered, and then we'll release the answers on the city council website. All right. Any other public comments or questions? Going once, going twice. I'm going to kick it back to members of council for any final comments. Councilmember Oliver.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, when he said, I just wanted to apologize about this. I thought I just heard him say Wilmington. I thought he was saying the fire department. I thought he just had it mixed up. Thank you. I'm sorry. Bye-bye.
No problem. All right, Vice Chair Harley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So that just leads me to a question with a yes or no. Does the fire department get calls for drug overdose? That That's just a yes or no.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There you go. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much. And again, I appreciate the public being engaged for this session and those watching at home. And at this time, I'd like to thank Chief Looney, Deputy Chief Bone, Battalion Chief Zipfil for presenting this evening, as well as OMB Manager, Mr. Winkler. Any follow-up information, again, Ms. Bass Knight from City Council will provide to council, to members of council or the public. At this time, I would like to introduce, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, well, at this point, the fire department budget hearing has concluded. We are moving slightly behind schedule, although we do have Wilmington Police Department coming up. So it's going to be a short timeline. So we will begin at 5:50 p.m. And again, I'll make up, we do have some time limitations, so I'll make sure we give it extended time. Okay. So we'll see everybody in about 9 minutes.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
WITN, are you ready?
Yes, we are ready. The chair can begin when he's ready.
Good evening, honorable members of council, Chief of Staff Washington, department heads, and members of the public. This time I'd like to call to order the Finance and Economic Development budget hearing for the Wilmington Police Department. I would like to first recognize members of the Finance Committee here in attendance by doing a roll call. Vice Chair Harley, 4th District.
Present.
Councilmember Oliver, 3rd District.
Present.
Councilmember Field, 8th District.
Present.
At-large Councilmember Spadola. At-large Councilmember Walsh.
Here.
Council President Congo.
Here.
We'll also like to recognize other council persons in attendance by doing a roll call. Councilmember Gray, 1st District. Councilmember Darby, 2nd District.
Present.
Councilmember Fields, 5th District.
Present.
Councilmember McCoy, 6th District.
Here.
Councilmember Cabrera, at large. Councilmember Mills, at large.
Present.
I would like to inform everyone that public comments will be asked at the end of each department's budget hearing, and we look forward to participation and engagement from the public. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. If there's any follow-up information during any of the budget hearings, Ms. Bass Knight will track and follow up on those requests. I ask that if my colleagues have any questions, use the raise hand feature as always. And at this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Winkler, OMB Manager, for financial overview, and then a brief presentation by Chief Tracy, and then a question and answer session by council. The floor is yours, Mr. Winkler.
All right. Good evening, Chairman Johnson, and good evening, President Congo and council members. Tonight, I'll be providing an overview of the FY 2023 Police Department budget. Could I get the slide, please? Thank you. And can we go to the first slide? Great. Okay, so excluding the state pension contribution, the proposed FY 2023 general fund budget is 61.8 million, which is up 2.6 million, or 4.4% compared to the FY22 budget. Personal services, which account for 85% of the department's budget, are up 2.2 million, or 4.3%. Msne is also up at nearly 159,000, or 4.7% compared to the FY22 budget. And total staffing across all funds is 373 FTE, which is down a net 7 from FY22. Total authorized strength for sworn officers is 312, which is also down by 7. All right, next slide. All right, so let's take a look at some of the major funding changes for FY23, starting with the position changes. The general fund is down a net 9.57 FTE, which is the result of 2 changes. So first, 7 vacant patrol officer positions were deleted for a savings of 618,000. And second, the 6 school resource officers, or SROs, which are currently split funded between the general fund and the special funds, were reallocated to the 100% special fund, since this better reflects the actual costs and the school provided revenues. This resulted in a reduction of 2.57 FTE from the general fund. However, this reallocation also involved the general fund absorbing the city-sponsored pension costs for one of the SROs, resulting in a $478,000 increase. So exclusive of these changes, regular salaries are budgeted to increase by nearly 2.3 million. Approximately 2.2 million of this is due to the new police rank and file contract, which includes enhancements to the career ladder. This new contract took effect at FY22, but was only partially included in the FY22 budget. The remainder of the salaries and benefit increase is due to other COLAs and mandatory step increases. Combined overtime costs are budgeted to increase by nearly $213,000, which includes a $290,000 increase for regular overtime and a $61,000 decrease in special events overtime. This was done in order to better reflect historical actual spending. All right, so moving on, the department plans to introduce a police cadet program at a total cost of $100,000. This is split between personal services and MS&E, with $75,000 in temporary salaries and $25,000 in uniforms and related equipment. Beyond the cadet program, uniforms and related equipment increased by an additional $144,000. This includes $30,000 to outfit the academy class, a $52,000 increase in the TASER contract, and $50,000 to replace an expired bomb suit. In addition, the budget includes a $75,000 increase to the equipment category for replacement furniture and upgrades to the 911 consoles and dispatch system. So partially offsetting these MS&E increases are several MS&E decreases. The largest is in consultants, which includes a $105,000 decrease due to FY2023 being an off year for the biennial promotion process. And finally, contracted maintenance is budgeted to decline by a net $40,000. This includes the removal of $185,000 previously budgeted in FY22 for the upgrade of the security camera system at the public safety building. This decrease is partially offset by an $88,000 increase for the Axon body camera contract, plus a number of other smaller contractual increases. All right, so those are the major police department changes for FY 2023. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them now. And if not, I'll return the floor to the chair.
You have a question for OMB specifically?
No, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I was going to add something. Whoever's doing the slide, can they move it over a little bit to the left because some of the numbers I'm not able to see it. Thank you. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
You. And I understand members of the public have questions. Again, similar to other budget hearings, we'll have the questions after the question and answer, public comments and questions after the question and answer session is over from council. I'll make sure you get time. All right, seeing no other questions, the floor is yours, Chief Tracy, for your brief intro.
Good evening, Finance Chair Johnson and Council President and all council members and public. So Wilmington Police Department fiscal year 23 budget hearing. What we really want to do is to have a overall focus on our FYI 2023 priorities. I want to identify departmental vision, identify 3 priorities, and identify 3 top performance measures. Our departmental vision, the Wilmington Department strives to enhance public safety in Wilmington and to further reductions in crime that our city has seen in the most recent years and what we're seeing in the first quarter of 2022. We will continue to utilize each of our layers crime control strategies, including community policing. As we all know, COVID forced many of our neighborhoods and civic association meetings to be held virtually. For some, they were unfortunately not held at all. And fortunately, these meetings are starting back up again, and they're being returned into person. And we're enjoying a chance to attend these meetings in person again, which is going to help build public trust and our relationships in the community. We also have the CompStat methodology, business management principles applied to police work that we started back in 2017. District integrity, assigning the same officers to the same neighborhood each time that they work. Intelligence-led policing, group violence intervention, and then the integration of NIBIN firearm ballistic traces and tracing analysis to tie some of these cases and these violent cases together where a firearm has been used. Our top priorities are to reduce crime and shooting incidents. We have a strong start in 2022, and we look forward to building on that. Right now, in 2022 compared to last year, we have almost a 40% reduction in shooting incidents. And if you go back 5 years ago, where we were 5 years ago, we have close to a 65% reduction in shooting incidents and almost a 70% reduction in homicides. We continue to enhance public trust through police legitimacy and procedural justice. And we look to improve performance through organizational discipline, accountability, communication, and personnel training and development. And our top performance measures, above all, we evaluate our successes based on the reduction of crime, not arrests. We also measure our performance based on a relationship our officers have with the community. And then finally, we measure our success adopting evidence-based strategies and new technology tools to help enhance our public safety.
All right, Chief Tracy, I'm going to go a little bit out of order, okay, just to hit on some topics that I know I've gotten questions about, okay, just so we can kind of get these issues out of the way, okay. I first wanted to touch on the budget line regarding the Citizen Review Board. From your budget, what is the proposed allocation for this upcoming fiscal year for that line item?
Mr. Chair, I believe on the budget line, that would be coming out of the administration. And I believe the Chief of Staff, Tanny Washington's on, and would be better prepared to answer that question.
Okay, and I just wanted to just for the record clarify that it's coming out of the mayor's budget and not police budget then.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be correct.
Okay, and on that same token again, I'm sure you've already gotten this question. I just wanted to get these bigger questions out of the way. The Office of Violence Prevention, we understand that there's a proposal right now, an $8 million investment in anti-violence projects. Is any of that coming out of police budget, or is this going to be outside budgets or mayor's office and/or ARPA funds?
So the $8 million for violence prevention is going to come out of ARPA. However, the initial assessment that we have contracted with Akil Sherrell's group is actually coming out of the mayor's office budget. As you recall, City Council requested approximately, I think it was like $350,000 for that effort. So you have the Nicole contract and the Akil Sherrell's contract coming out of the mayor's office for this year.
Okay. All right. And lastly, kind of on those big, broad topics. After reviewing your budget, I noticed there's not an allocation for community response teams, Chief Tracy, like, social workers. Was that by intent or plan, or, what's the plan going forward?
Yes. One of the things we talked about Akil Sherrill that's coming here. That's part of our overall canvas, landscape canvas assessment. And we're going to be looking at them on what we can do moving forward, working with our group violence intervention, our community engagement. Some of the things that we're already doing, although we're a city that doesn't have a standalone Department of Health and Human Resources or support services, and we also don't have substance abuse services. We work closely with the state, and then with them, we've gone out and did joint operations to go out and meet the needs of some people that are homeless, and also with the mental health issues. Less than 1% of our calls for service, overall calls year to year historically, are mental health calls. And then half of those calls are by the crisis intervention team from the state that come in, and they actually ask us if we can assist them should things might become violent or a person's resisting as far as pushing back on some of their services. So we are doing a lot of these things, but as far as putting anything into our budget now, we're working with our state partners, and that's where we're at this time instead of creating redundancy. So there hasn't been put anything in, but I'm sure it's certainly something we can continue to talk about.
Okay, and just lastly, before we go into the in order topics, believe recently, and again, Chief Tracy, you may not know the answer, but there was a proposal from the White House about an increase in police funding for police around the country. Do we have any idea how that would potentially impact either violence prevention services or law enforcement services that Wilmington could offer, or are we looking at an influx of funds that we can possibly use for some of these new programs?
Certainly something, it's in its early stages. What we look to when it comes to these federal and state grants, we actually start to research them, and then we'll look to see what can fit well within the city of Wilmington and actually help supplement our budget, not supplant it. And we're going to be taking a good look at what can be done as far as when they put things out and we're eligible to apply for some of these grants. At this time, as you can see, as far as increasing our budgeted strength, we're actually have a reduction of 7 officers, and I'm sure we'll get into that full-time positions as we get along in this budget. But it's something we're looking into the future with, but I really don't have a lot of information on where it can help us right now. But we're certainly going to make sure that we do our due diligence to see what we can do and how it can help the city of Wilmington.
Okay, and just again, as another housekeeping matter, I see and there's a big proposal for the police cadet program. Just want to preface before the discussion on that is this is the police cadet program a program to work on diversity? Is that the point of the program?
It's part of it, yes, it is, and it's creating a pipeline, going to local schools, looking at the VOTEC, looking at a lot of these schools and giving an opportunity for city residents to become exposed to what we do in policing from 17 to 21 years of age, and then looking to see if we can bring them through and give them prioritization when they become of age, become a police officer, and then we can fast track them within the police department. And it should help us with the diversity and build off the success that we've had last class, and also 80% of our individuals that are in the academy class right now are minorities. So I'm hoping to build off that with this Cadet Corps program.
All right, thank you very much, Chief. I appreciate the time just as overview, because again, I'm trying to streamline things and make it clear and visible for the public. I know there's been a lot of questions on these major subjects. And so I just wanted to put that out there so people aren't wondering and listening and get lost. I want to, highlight the major topics, but I know there's going to be some discussion on the police audit in a little bit, the audit proposal. So I know that's an item. So I hope you're ready to address that. So without anything further, we can move to question one if there's no questions, but I believe Council President Congo has a question first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Tracy, for the cadet program, what schools are going to be targeted?
Council President, we're putting together, but certainly we're going to try to put this out and market it as best as possible, looking at all the schools in the city and actually churches, just like we recruit for cadets and people who come into the police department. We're going to do the same marketing campaign, and that's going to be head up by Inspector Chuck Emery and Captain Bowers. And then we're going to look at it as we would anybody else applying, and then we would vet the individuals. Right now, it's 3 to 5 cadets. I hope after this year we can build off the success of the program, but we're starting just with 3 to 5 this year. But it would be all schools within the city.
And Chief, if you mind, I apologize for interrupting, but if WITN could actually go to question 5, that'd be very helpful. So the public can track where we are. I mean, because if we're going to talk about that topic, we can dig right in. Question 5, okay. All right. So we can just jump to that question first then. Okay. So is there any follow-up question, Council President?
No, thank you.
Okay.
So at question 5 is discuss 100K budgeted in the new police cadet program. Share the anticipated number of participants and how you plan on marketing the program. So if you go to the next slide. So the police cadet program is open to those 18, I'm sorry, I said 17 to 21, it's 18 to 21.
This call may be monitored or recorded for quality and security.
75,000 is budgeted to 3 to 5 cadets part-time, approximately 20 hours per week. $25,000 is budget for uniforms and equipment, polo shirts, uniform pants, radio equipment, cadet traffic vest, and the police cadet program would market at various educational institutions within the city of Wilmington, as well as through community centers and non-for-profit organizations and faith communities. Just like we do, try to get individuals into the police department, and hopefully this is going to grow. This is something that started out in the 1990s. Within the Wilmington Police Department was successful. It had stopped a couple of decades ago, but I think it's a great idea to introduce kids into this and get them exposed, and then we can get more of the children from an 18-year-old age, starting as early as 18, getting a career, staying out of trouble, and make sure that we can start to even grow upon diversity within the police department, getting the candidates.
All right, thank you very much, Chief Tracy, and Councilmember Darby.
Yes, I had questions about the police cadet program. Will we be tracking how many of the participants are actually from or live or reside in the city of Wilmington? Because I don't want this to become another program where it's just for the sons and daughters of police officers.
Absolutely. You know, that's one of the things that we looked at, Councilwoman. We want to make sure that with prioritization goes to residents within the city of Wilmington.
Will that be like a commitment, like written down, or is it just going to be something like we might do it or might not do it?
It's something that we can make sure that the prioritization, if we want to make the commitment, we absolutely can make that commitment. That is our intent, to make sure if we exhaust the list where there's more positions open, I'd rather give prioritization. We're going to give prioritization for city residents, but if it doesn't get filled, I don't want to close the list that we don't offer it out. But you're absolutely right. We want to keep it within the city of Wilmington.
All right, thank you very much, Chief. Councilmember Walsh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, are the participants in this program getting paid anything?
Yes, they are, ma'am. That's why we have the budgeted $75,000 that will pay them approximately 20 hours per week part-time. And we plan on paying them, I think, Inspector Emery, what was the pay amount that we were going to look to start with?
I believe it was 20 an hour.
I believe it's almost close to $20 an hour.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it might be $15 an hour. My apologies, $15 an hour. I'm looking at my notes.
Okay, so you haven't put in the salaries for the officers that will be doing the training in this program?
The salaries that, there's no additional officers that are going to be in this, just like we do with the academy. Everybody's cross-trained into training. These cadet corps programs, it's almost going to be like an internship where they're actually going to be assisting us either in communications, support services, within administrative positions. They might be out on possibly assisting on a traffic post, on a parade. So it's not going to be more of taking time out to train, but they're just going to be assigned to an officer. It's not a field training officer program, but it's certainly going to assist and help this department out with their salary. But we're not adding any additional officers for this training or budgeted in for salaries.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes, please.
Okay, I really just have one more answer. Where is it that it says we can't use a program like this just for city kids? Does anybody know? Anybody can answer it for me.
Councilwoman, could you ask that question again? I'm sorry.
Yes, where is it written? Not necessarily your department, might be in the city code, might be in the state code. I don't know where it is, but anywhere is it written where it says that we can't curtail those who apply for this job, because this is really a job training more than anything, where we can't just have it for city kids.
I don't know where it's written, ma'am. I would have to check with city HR to see if there's anything that we missed. So that's why, as we're developing the program, I'm trying not to close the door on that. We would prioritize city residents, but if certainly we don't get enough, we certainly want to fill those positions from the area.
Oh,
Okay, if somebody could just get an answer for that, I'd appreciate it. I don't mean right today either.
Yes, ma'am.
After this hearing is fine, but I'd really like to know, because I would think that throughout our city, we'd be able to find enough kids for this program.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Thank you.
And just briefly, Chief Tracy, on this, we're looking at police alternatives. Is there a possibility that this program could be expanded to almost create an auxiliary police force in Wilmington that saves the taxpayers money, such as in New York City, you know, where you have people who are trained, but they're unarmed, you know, and they have radios. Is that something that the police department is looking at, you know, grants in that area?
That's something that I believe when in New York, when you have the auxiliary and the type and the amount of auxiliary, that's usually done during collective bargaining agreements and how many there can be. It's not something that we have looked at here in the city of Wilmington, not during my time. I'm not sure prior to my 5 years that I've been here, has it been looked at? We have not gone with an auxiliary program, and I would have to check with city law and the city HR if that's something that's viable.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief. And I would like to recognize Councilmember Spadola and Councilmember Cabrera have joined us. Moving right along, Councilmember Gray, I believe you're first up.
Thank you for recognizing me. I'd like to know if these recruits or whatever you're calling them, the kids, young adults, can be used for neighborhood watch. I know the Wilmington Police used to have a neighborhood watch program that neighbors could be trained in whatever was appropriate with the Wilmington Police to protect their neighborhoods. And my community, Brandywine Hills, was trained in it. But we were trained by the county because at the time, a couple of years ago, there was no one in the city still doing that. So I'm wondering if these kids could be trained to do neighborhood watch, to look out for car thefts, you know, excessive noise in the community, any of those things. I think that would be very helpful. So I'd like to know your comments on using this program to help communities for community watch.
Councilwoman, the quick answer is no, we don't have plans. They don't have police powers. What we do is if there's going to be a community watch that's developed through the community, I would like that to go more with our officers that are with district integrity assigned to the same districts every time they work, and when an overall community liaison officer, which is our captain of each district, that would coordinate things. And we can certainly help where civic associations and certain neighborhoods want to create this watch and work together with them. But to have one of these cadets, we're basically keeping them more inside than we're actually putting them out on their own. Certainly we have the field training officers. When the officers come out of the academy, we're very careful in what we would do with them during their 18-month probation period before they're out on their own. And these are the officers that gone through a 6-month training academy. Right now, they don't have police powers, but we certainly can work through our community engagement, civic association, certain neighborhoods with each one of our district commanders, sector commanders, each one of our sectors to work with something like this. If a community would like to do that, we're more than happy to work with it and with the resources that we have.
May I follow up?
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm just talking about them maybe walking through the community, not having police powers, because we even had our mailman alert the police because he saw someone in the community like carrying a TV that didn't look normal. So I'm not really specifically thinking that they would have police powers, that they could just walk through various communities and radio someone that they saw something suspicious, like our mailman, that he solved 2 crimes in our community over 5 years just by being observant. So that's the type of thing I'm wondering why you can't use them for that purpose. Thank you.
It's absolutely something we could take a look at, Councilwoman.
Okay, thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you very much. Now, backtracking a little bit, let's move to slide 1 if we could, Chief. Okay. Now we have briefly this evening, we have some discussion about vacancies. So can you elaborate on as to what the department has done with the vacancies?
Okay, Mr. Chair. Question 1, discuss current vacant positions. Okay. And the answers are, but before I answer the question, I just want to make sure everybody knows that Inspector Charles Emery is with me today. Inspector Cecilia Ash, as you can see on the screen. Master Corporal Nellie Vega is with us, and also our Director of Policy and Communications, David Karras. So for the current vacancies, we have 6 civilian positions in the Communications Division, 2 senior communication specialists and 4 emergency call operators. All these positions right now have been posted, and we're currently doing interviews to fill these positions. The 16 civilian positions for crossing guards is also always active because of COVID restrictions, schools being closed. We're trying to bring that back up to the amount for others leaving, and we're currently, all those positions are posted. And then the 23 sworn officer vacancies. Out of that 23, 14 recruits are active in the police academy, and then 1 civilian position, our cold case investigator, criminal investigations division, just retired a couple of months ago. That position has now been posted, and we're doing interviews for that as we speak.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to question 2, Chief. Can you discuss any position changes in the budget?
There are no new or proposed changes to any positions. You can go to the next slide, please. The additional officers, including in the real-time crime center, are existing personnel that we move from one budget line to another, following the recommendations from the Office of Management and Budget. They are members of the Technical Resource Unit who were assigned to this unit to manage our body-worn camera program. And the breakdown as follows. It's 1 sergeant, 3 police officers.
Thank you very much. Moving to slide 3, Chief Tracy, he discussed the department's authorized strength of 312.
So if we go to the next slide. So the FY23 proposed authorized strength is 312 officers. That's a decrease of 7 sworn personnel. Our authorized strength was 319 in 2022, I'm sorry. And the current actual strength is 311 right now, which includes the 14 recruits in the 101st Wilmington Police Academy. The current organizational strength is 278. And then as you take those numbers down, there's 5 that are in military deployment, 14 are modified duty personnel. That's either injured Federal Medical Leave Act or administrative duty at this time. And 14 of them are the recruits.
Okay. Councilmember Walsh. Question? Councilmember Walsh, looks like you're still on mute.
Okay, am I okay now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have 7 vacant patrol officers at a savings of 618,000 plus change. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
How much does it cost us in overtime to take up whatever they were doing?
Ma'am, that's a speculative question. Unless I had details, to pick up where they are, certainly to fill someone's position would incur overtime. But I think sometimes it's the overall cost of the pensions and long-term costs that the city will be saving on at this time.
Saving on immediately or down the road?
I believe immediately, because you're talking about $600,000. If you see what our budget is budgeted for overtime, It's about $290,000 that we're going, it's somewhat, they're not gonna, the incur the cost of these 7 sworn police officers is not gonna go anywhere near what our overall budgeted for overtime, not including the grant overtime that we have.
Okay, I'm just wondering about these numbers though, because you also have 14 of our police officers count are recruits that are being trained. 5 are out on military deployment. 14 are modified duty personnel. So it seems like we have to cover all of those jobs too.
Councilwoman, these are already vacant positions that we have right now. So we have to adjust. What we do is we try to get the job done even without these positions filled, because as you know, we have to wait almost 8-9 months sometimes for a new academy. Then we have attrition. So within the attrition, we make do to make sure that operationally we're getting the job done for the public. And some of these positions were already vacant to begin with. So we've been getting some good results, getting reductions in crime, even with these decreased 7 sworn. In the end, as your police chief, I have to find ways to make sure that we get our service done with 7 less. No police chief wants to see staffing levels decrease. Every police chief would always say they want to see it increase, but we have to acknowledge the difficult financial position the city's in. And we recognize every city department is going to shoulder some burden of this hardship for the future. So we're working with the administration as we present this department's budget and proposal, and we'll continue to mobilize our personnel and ensure we provide the highest quality law enforcement services to the city. So my job is to make sure that we can find those areas and then try to minimize the current operational strength. When it comes to military deployment, it's very difficult. Sometimes these orders that are cut, these individuals in the military get called, and thank you for their service that they're doing. But we work with them, the modified duty, the injured. We look to get people back as soon as possible. The FMLA, although that's a federal mandated, if a person has the time, if they have the time, it's really hard not to grant them. Should they have those reasons that hit the criteria, that we allow them that time off to take care of, whether it's childcare, sick parents. Those are the things that we have to do. And administrative duty, some people are out with administrative duty because of disciplinary reasons and everything until some things are finalized. And for the 14 recruits, hopefully we'll have them out in 6 months, and they'll go through their training program. And then within this budget, we do have money budgeted to put another police academy in to try to bring us up to 312 officers budget strength. So it's always a constant battle through attrition.
Chief,
yes, ma'am.
I'm not asking you these questions as a criticism. I'm asking you these questions to get a general feeling of what's going on within the department and what you might have to face every day in making sure that all the positions are actually being covered with the amount of people, real people, that you have in person, not on paper. And that is simply what my questions are. They are not a criticism of the department. I'm asking you for knowledge of how all these things are being taken care of and what it's costing. Because when we just have something sitting here saying, that's a savings of $618,000. Well, it's actually not, because if we have to cover some of those positions, then that cuts into that $618,000 savings. And that was the answers I was looking for. Not it being taken that I'm criticizing the way you are doing your job, because I think that we have actually, our police department has improved in the coverage of this city in the last several years. So please take my questioning with the intent it's meant.
Ma'am, I was not taking it as a criticism. I was trying to explain an answer on how we every day is dynamic. We have officers out, even during COVID, we were down 40 officers some days. It's something that I have to deal with. And sometimes to answer your question, yes, there are times when overtime will be part of how we have to do things. That's built into the budget and through our grants. And 7 people down, there will be probably some costs that'll be absorbed into that overtime. So you're correct. I'm not exactly sure what that amount would be, and I have to work with OMB to possibly put together some type of formula that they can tell me over an average of what 7 less police officers is going to be built into what our budget. So I don't have that answer, but it's something we can look with OMB to see if we can figure that out for you now.
Have any of your officers indicated that they're going to be retiring in the next 3 months?
Our officers, we have, it's almost 1.5 officers since I've been here, and look back historically. That's how we look to prioritize the money and budget as we get into the academy classes or what our needs going to be. So it's usually averages the 1.5 officers per month is the attrition rate. So how it's been worked since I've been here, I anticipate that number to stay the same. So in the next several months, we're probably going to lose more officers because they're eligible for retirement.
All right, thank you. That's all I have right now.
Chief, as a follow-up to that, I'd like to put things in quantitative terms if I can. In terms of police officer per capita, I mean, where does Wilmington rank in terms of similar sized cities?
Well, East Coast departments usually are higher in per capita than they would be when you go towards the West Coast. I think it's because more of geography. If you take a look at where we are per capita, take a Camden, New Jersey, that has a similar size, a similar population, and a similar geography amount. They have over 100 more police officers than we do right now. So per capita, but that's really the extreme. Newark, New Jersey, Camden, and those are the 2 departments I know that have probably the greatest per capita in the United States. We actually fall, even with the 312 police officers, we fall somewhat towards the highest spectrum with 312 for the population that we have in this city. So we're not as high as the highest, but we're certainly higher than a lot of others. I can get the specifics. There's a few articles on it, but I don't have that in front of me right now, sir. But I do know, can give you somewhat of a broad answer and generalization of where we stand. We're towards the higher amount of officers per capita in the United States.
So with that said, with the amount of officers you have and combined with the state services, GBI, the other violence prevention activities, you know, we've talked about that have worked for crime, you feel like you have enough officers on the street, right?
That's somewhat of a loaded question. Like I said, there's no chief in this world that wouldn't take more police officers. But you know,
yes. To be fair,
so I'm sorry.
But you have adequate police force, right?
Well, when I came into the department, it was 315 police officers was the budgeted strength. Then we went up to 319 because of the body worn cameras. What I got to make sure each and every day to work with the amount of officers because it's such a dynamic number. With 312, I would always like to have more, but I'll make sure that we get it done with 312 police officers to try to continue. And as you can see right now, we're down with the academy and we're still getting a lot of results because of a lot of the strategies and those other support services from the state and also with the group violence intervention and overall comprehensive strategy. We're making progress in the city with less than 312 officers.
Thank you very much, Chief. That dovetails right into question 4, I believe. Chief, just can you talk about the new academy class, what the cost of that looks like?
Okay, so question 4, discuss any plans for new academy class in FY2023, number of projected participants, and a specific time frame for the starting class and time frame to having officers on the street. We can go to the next slide. So we anticipate.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that, Vice Chair Harley. I just saw it as we began the question. Vice Chair Harley, do you have a question on Is it 3 or 4? You have a question?
Yeah, on 3, if you look at question 3, there is a C. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you
Okay.
about this slide.
So to answer question 3, there are currently 6 school resource officers. As you can see, down through Howard, PSD Font, Douglas, Parkway Academy, Bancroft, and Byard. And you can see different contracts, because some of the contracts they had, they wanted for a 12-month, and others have them a 10-month. And then on the bottom, you can see that what we're being paid by these schools to support these officers in these contracts.
Follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Yes, so Chief, how do you prioritize these SROs?
So these schools were inherited. Most of them were inherited when I got here. I actually thought it was a great program because some of these schools have had some issues. They certainly have asked to have officers, and I think it's having a tremendous impact, building that trust, doing that exposure introduction when an officer can get to kids within these community schools that actually help us when they're outside. We prioritize them. We prioritize them because these are existing ones. Some have let their contracts go, and we've added another one. But with the budget that we have right now, there has been a couple of other requests that have come in that we would have liked to honor, but since we're cutting 7 full-time positions, we're unable to do that. And then just getting into with the 10-month contracts and everything, OMB has helped us break out what the rate is for a 12-month and a 10-month program.
Okay, one quick follow-up, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
So Chief, as you know, Great Oaks, they pretty much had a conversation about getting an SRO. And as it has been explained by Inspector Ash, what the decision has been, and the plan to hopefully work out something where there could be some type of connection or some type of coverage, even though they have not been selected to be one of the SROs. So one, I wanted to find out, how do you prioritize these SROs? Because as you know, Great Oaks had a shooting there. And so, and some conversations, individuals would think that that could prioritize having an SRO in that particular school. I'm getting some feedback here. Okay, so again, having that kind of activity in the school, it just seemed like that would be one of the reasons that that particular school would qualify for an SRO based on a shooting there and based on the fights and things of that nature. So I just wanted to make sure I could communicate effectively back to interested individuals that want to know how is it prioritized, and 2, based on the activity, could that be considered? And then 3, I do appreciate the conversation with Inspector Ash as it relates to a plan that y'all are going to work on to hopefully work with the school in some fashion to get them some coverage based on the activity that has taken place at Great Oaks. So I'm hoping that that happens, that you come up with a plan, the appropriate individuals that will be working on it, because it really is a concern. And of course, they reached out, and as I can see here, there are some SROs, but I'm hoping that the other option or the mitigation for this will be having another plan, Chief.
Yes, Councilwoman, and you're absolutely right. After a couple of years ago, when Greater Oaks CEB canceled their contract, they actually canceled it. What we did after they canceled it, because we were already in the budget and already had everything approved. What we did is to go back on making sure that they were safe. And this will be with any school. If they don't have an SRO, certainly if we get if we get information that there might be some violence, teachers, principals, parents, we'll make sure that these schools are covered by our officers that are working that day. When it comes to Greater Oaks, we have worked out something since that time, since they haven't had a school resource officer, since they canceled their contract. We've actually had extra jobs. We have officers that are outside of the times. We're in constant communication with the principal. We speak with her. They also have a retired law enforcement officer. That's one of their security heads who used to work for the Wilmington Police Department. So we actually work with him each day. He'll call it. So there is a retired law enforcement officer that is assigned to the school as their head of security. He has the relationship with us here in the Wilmington Police Department, as every security that might no longer law enforcement. We communicate every morning with our real-time crime center. And if there should be any threats that we see, or we make sure we take that very seriously as we have done in the past. And with them, we have talked to the principal. We've let them know, hey, listen, this year we would have liked to have it, but we cut 7 FTE positions. And we'll continue to look to work with them with their concerns, with extra jobs, have officers assigned out there at the times that they need them, and work with their retired Wilmington police officer head of security. And so we do have plans in place, and we're in constant communication. And hopefully at some other time we can add them, or if one of these schools come off at a certain period, if they do, then we can make sure we can put them in if they want to have a contract for their school.
Okay, I really appreciate that, because of course they reached out to me in support of them getting an SRO. And so I definitely wanted to bring it up and to confirm that you will continue to sort of like keep an eye out, and you pretty much explained, the plan that's in place and the plan going forward. And I did recognize that you have an officer there in the mornings, and you also have an officer there after school, right? That's correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
And that's going to continue?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Problem. All right, Chief Tracy, let's move on to back to question 4. Let's just go over any highlights from the police academy. What a
proposal. We can go to the next slide, please. So the answer, 15 to 20 recruits are anticipated. We talked about the 1.5 attrition rate that's been historically been here during my time and prior to my time. The final will be based off the attrition rate when the academy begins. The timeline for the total process includes application process and selection process. Academy, approximately 23 weeks. Following graduations, the officers assigned to field training in the Uniform Services Division, and the approximate timeline is 1 year from start to finish. And then when you go to the next slide, this is each year when we put this up, things really haven't changed much. We got approximation of what the costs are going to be for 15 recruits. It will go up or down naturally to get to our budget strength, or if we don't need to get to our budget strength, how many officers we can put in there. So it comes to almost 200. If you go through all the lines, it comes to $252,770.
Thank you very much, Chief Tracy. Question 5, I believe we already hit upon in the beginning, so we can skip to question number 6. Can you discuss this police audit? It's something this has been discussed greatly. It's been a somewhat controversial item, but it's something that council passed earlier this year, requesting that the police department undergo an audit of various levels and scope. So can you elaborate on what the police department's plan is to try to comply with what council?
If we go to the answer, sir. This slide, some of the things that were requested, there are a lot of things that we're already doing. There's a commission on the accreditation for law enforcement agencies. This is a very rigorous review that only 32 agencies our size in the country, and 32 agencies that have an advanced accreditation at 18,000 police departments. No police department really wants to go through this because a lot of them fail. We've been very fortunate. In 2017, we passed, and then again, they come in every year and they do a review and make recommendations. And their recommendations start with recruitment, starts with community engagement, meetings attended, promotion exams, policy, discipline. They review everything that we do right down to uniforms, and also how we do evaluations. So it's a process. They actually went out and did a community tour last summer to explain what they're looking for and the community engagement. And we not only are we accredited, this $7,000, it's almost 0.1% of police departments can pass this and have this advanced accreditation that hits on everything that we're asking for in the audits that were proposed. In addition to that, speaking with the administration and making sure that we're following up on other the audits to complement this, the administration has actually, I believe from the presentation given by Chief of Staff Tanny Washington out of the mayor's office, they're using more than $30,000 in funds. And we're going to be working with, and we already are working with Akil Shirils from Newark, from his community-based public safety team. They're conducting right now. We just went through a comprehensive review, written review that we sent back out to them to make sure that they're prepared when they come in next week to sit down with us as they do their overall review. And this is really in crime prevention, community resource infrastructure, connectivity to the community, how we're addressing the community, how we're communicating with the community. And it also is going to oversee to see what we're doing with our group violence intervention. And it really looks at procedural justice, police legitimacy, respecting the community, and all those things. Akil Shiril is a very well-respected individual. He is sat next to me when we both met with President Biden down in Washington, D.C. in the Roosevelt Room back in July of 2021. Both of them, we shared best practices. We spoke with the president on how to improve things, how to audit police departments. And, to follow up, I was brought in from the outside, who actually was a consultant and did audits on a lot of police departments throughout the United States. And, some of the things that we're asking for that they're doing and having other people come in, we're all for it. We want to make sure that we're looking at everything, see how we can improve and share best practices. So I think between the two things, I think it covers what the council was asking for in the resolution. And Akil Shirils is also, members of the council also wanted to take a look at them and reviewed what they were doing up in Newark, New Jersey. And then what they were doing. And now they're coming into Wilmington, and we can't wait to get started with them to do the audit and review.
So in response to if there was a request for an outside consultant, do you believe the police department is working towards that, or engaging an outside consultant, or at least you're complying with that?
Well, both of this, the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement is an outside consultant, and so is community-based public safety team is another outside consultant. And when you look at the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement agencies, they actually make sure that we're adhering to the President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing and the 6 pillars that I adhere to and brought police legitimacy, procedural justice, and also looked at changing culture and organizational culture in a police department being outside eyes that I've gone into other police departments. We look at the 6 pillars: building trust and legitimacy, policy and oversight, technology and social media, community policing and crime reduction, training and education. And a really important one that we had a great presentation by our unit. And then also we had an outside agency that took a look at officer wellness and safety. And I think we're hitting a lot of those things. And I just want to make sure that some of the things that we're not doing is going to be redundant, because a lot of things people ask for. We do have outside entities that are looking at our department and looking at all the things that the council's asking for.
And as one quick follow-up, Chief Tracy, has Wilmington been under a consent decree ever? And to elaborate for the public, a consent decree is essentially when the U.S. Department of Justice comes in and investigates the department, basically says that policies and practices are inherently biased or they're racist. Has Wilmington ever been under that scope before?
No, the Wilmington Police Department, in my knowledge, hasn't, but the Department of Justice actually was in here a few years ago with the Violence Reduction Network. And it was the Department of Justice that works on consent decrees to look at policy and practices. They were in here a few years. And then there was also they looked at the policies and practices. So they were in here not to do a consent decree. And a consent decree is usually an outside monitor that comes in to look at policies and practices and then sets benchmarks for a police department to look at. The one thing about consent decrees, they're very, very expensive. They have an oversight. They sometimes take up to 10 years, and they cost the city a couple of $1 million a year on their oversight to hit these benchmarks. Having the Violence Reduction Network come in, having doing these things, especially the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, when the Department of Justice takes a look at that and sees that we have an advanced accreditation, that's something that they take heavily in account before they would even think about doing a consent decree. And then also with the community-based public safety team, that's another thing we're looking at every angle, having outside eyes. And I work for the Department of Justice as a consultant in between my time between Chicago and here. And I went in and looked at policies and practices of police departments to learn and help them along. And some of them were under consent decree.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief. Councilmember Darby, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. I had to get to my mute. So in regards to the consultant, the outside consultant that was asked to be hired. So you mentioned the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. The community engagement was really low, and they did not engage with council. The legislative initiatives in regards to the police department. And they, based on what I just, my short read about the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, most of the people, it was established by people who come from law enforcement. And most of the people who sit on the commission are police officers or police officer related or affiliated. So it doesn't give, to me, an unbiased opinion. And as far as a kill coming in from Newark, New Jersey, I think is great. A landscape analysis is not a deep analysis. It's like landscape, like a landscape. Like I'm going to look at some main things about the organization and give some recommendation. $30,000 is not a lot of money. I read the contract and they're doing many things. So they're not doing a deep analysis on the policies and procedures of the department. They're really working on trying to figure out ways to work with you guys in that contract based on what I'm reading, what I have in my hand right now on ways they can work with you guys on establishing an Office of Violence Prevention. That's the focus for that legislation. I mean, that contract, the contract is not about an overall general analysis of the departments and their policies and procedures. It's more about getting the Office of Violence Prevention established here in the city. And one part of getting it established is also making sure that there's a working relationship with the police department. So that is the point of the contract. The point of the contract, based on what I have right here and what I'm reading, is not to do a full-blown assessment audit of the department. But they are working with you guys, of course, because the Office of Violence Prevention would have to have some type of collaboration and working with you guys on crime reduction in our city. So I want to make that really clear. So the outside consultant entity piece has not been met based on the budget that you're presenting here, where you have an unbiased outside consultant who's willing. Who is coughing like that?
Excuse me, somebody's.
Like, why would you go off mute and cough? But yeah, it has not been met based on what is here in the contract that I have with Akil, and I can share that with the community, that it does not say that it's going to be a full-blown audit of your department. And then the Commissioner on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agency, if you look at the commission and who's serving on the commission, it is mostly police affiliated people. Thank you.
All Council President has a question. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So Chief, getting back to the question, I'm not sure if you ever answered it. Was any funding set aside for an audit of the department based on the resolution that council passed?
There's continued money that's been set aside with the Commission on Accreditation for law enforcement agencies. And then through the mayor's office, this money's been set aside for community-based public safety team. Was one of the recommendations from the mayor's office in response and with response with these two things as a response to the resolution.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson, can you see my hand up?
No.
I have a question if I may.
Yes, the floor is yours.
Oh, thanks so much. So is it to my understanding, so there is no funding for the audit of the police station? Or, I mean, I heard what the chief said, but is that what we're saying, that is not going to occur, Mr. Chair? That I missed something?
I think Chief answered it, I think as fully as he could. I don't know if someone from the mayor's office wants to clarify. Chief of Staff Washington.
If somebody could, because I missed some of it, I'm sorry.
Well, what the chief is essentially saying, and the mayor's office is in agreement with him, is that the accreditation for law enforcement agencies does a deep enough dive, as well as the work that Aquila Sherrills will have in Delaware, in Wilmington, will obviously complement that. So in terms of an actual audit, no, there's no money in the budget for actual audit. So, but the accreditation for law enforcement agencies is very thorough in our opinion.
Okay, I have missed that. Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions on this item?
I have a question.
Okay, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if council, if it's council's will to suggest an outside entity to come in and do an outside audit of our police department, where does the administration and the police department stand on that?
With the accreditation for law enforcement agencies, there's over 1,000 areas that they hit on. This is an outside audit that's done annually. They don't come in every 4 years. They do the advanced accreditation, but each year we have to keep it. So they're coming in each year and they make recommendations that some things that we're not doing. The last one was making sure that all our officers had annual evaluations that things that haven't been done, and Inspector Emery was able to make sure, working with city HR and taking care of that thing. Everything in that is done every single year, and we have to stay within, it is an outside audit. The Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement is an auditing agency that a lot of agencies don't pass to get the accreditation, and over 1,000 points that we have to hit each and every year to do it. And then this is where we're at, and we're actually very proud to be one of the few agencies in the United States where it's 0.1% of all agencies are able to hit all these metrics and measures that are pretty rigorous, and as far as an outside audit. So this is an audit every single year. The money has been put aside for this accreditation to come in.
May I follow up?
Yes, please.
So Chief, I'm Tracy, you saying y'all have passed the audit that the accreditation has done. When you say the points, what was your score? Because you said something, but was you short? I didn't understand. I mean, I heard you. So basically you're saying you passed the accreditation that the individuals come in and do at the police station.
Yes, ma'am. And this, when we talked about where the finance chair, Johnson, had talked about consent decrees in the Department of Justice. They look at this Commission on Accreditation for law enforcement agencies very, very seriously. And if you have an advanced accreditation, they have looked over every policy and did an audit. And if you have an advanced accreditation, it's one of the criteria. A lot of departments that have a consent decree but had to have one come in. The reason that they have a consent decree by the Department of Justice is because they couldn't pass this Commission on Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies, not even just get the basic, but we actually have the advanced, which is very, very rare for the 18,000 police departments. So yes, it is an outside audit. Yes, we've done well, and we continue to have to work on it each and every day.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna do the first round of comments. So Councilmember Gray, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I definitely understand accreditation. And one of the problems with accreditation these days is accreditation is based on old standards. I understand standards of certain necessary rules and regulations that every police department needs to have. But we're discussing looking into our police department about the complaints that we have from the policemen directly, specific complaints. And I don't think accreditation addresses specific employment complaints. It's sort of an overall of whether the department is fulfilling the national guidelines of being a police department, certain standards of hiring, of training and things like that. But I think what we want is to address what the police officers have discussed to us is the problem with management and upward mobility and other internal problems. And I do not think accreditation addresses specific internal problems of specific and individual police departments, correct?
I apologize. I'm having a very hard time hearing you. So I want to make sure I answer a question. There's a lot of background going on, Councilwoman. And
okay, I'm on my phone, so that might be the problem. Basically, I'm saying the current accreditation of the police department does not fulfill looking into the problems within that employees, actual police officers are concerned with. It's more of an overall national type of accreditation that you have the appropriate hiring procedures and have the appropriate training procedures. But what I think we are discussing is the complaints that have come from actual police officers about internal problems in our police department, hiring, promotions, positions, advancement, etc.
Councilwoman,
Sorry about that. Excuse me, I heard applause and someone's, if they're at a public setting, can you please put yourself on mute? Thank you.
Councilwoman, actually, this accreditation does hit on all this. They actually sit down and interview police officers. They interview our HR, they interview Inspector Emery, they interview all our supervisors of different ranks to make sure that is there any issues or are there issues with complaints as far as our hiring, our promotion, our upward mobility, how we move people into units, how we interview people, and the upward mobility that you're talking about actually is part of the overall review in the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies.
All right. Thank you very much, Chief, and Councilmember Darby.
Yes, thank you.
Wait, excuse me, I had a follow-up. I just wanted to find out, once you get that information, what does our department, police department?
Councilmember Gray, it's too much background in your phone. So if you can't go to a private area, then.
I am in a private area. I can't help it. I'm in a private area, and there's no one around me.
Okay.
So the only thing I want to know is what does this department do with that information once they get it from the accreditation from the officers that have made concerns and complaints?
If there's concerns or complaints, there's several different ways that go about it. Some of them informal, some are done through the chain of command. Some are done if there's a grievance. We look at a grievance process, and then we have stages within the collective bargaining agreement on both the civilian and the sworn law enforcement side. If it's something that they don't want to go through the police department, they can go straight to Office of Professional Standards, or they can go to City Human Resources. We take this stuff very seriously. If there's complaints, informal or officially, we look to address them. The one thing that we got to make sure that if it's a real grievance or it's disappointment, sometimes disappointment, I want to make sure it's not overgeneralized in a police department. but we look at these things. Just even when it comes to the testing process, myself, Inspector Emery, Captain Bowers, we talk about how the testing process has been. I've asked them to take a look at it with Captain Bowers and Inspector Emery. Are there things that we can do to make sure that it's as fair as possible? One of the things that procedures he brought, working with E.B. Jacobs, which is our testing outside consultant, is that to make it as less intimidating, to have an open book exam for both sergeant and lieutenant. I asked Inspector Emery, is there anything else that we can do? We actually agreed. We went back to the testing process. We did this for the last test. We're going to see what the results show. Inspector Emery, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I said, is this test process fair for everyone? And he's a product of this testing process, as is Inspector Rash, that's sitting to my left to my right. And Inspector Emery has actually say it's a very, very fair process in his own view. And I'm trying to keep this thing moving, but I can actually have him going further on this. But those are the things that are put back to me as far as upward mobility testing, and then looking at how we move people within the organization, upward mobility. If there's complaints that are official, we look at them. If they're informal, we meet every week with our command staff and supervisors, and we talk about issues for the last 5 years. After we always have our Wednesday meetings, if there's problems, rumors, issues that are within the police, morale issues, and we talk about these things and how we can improve them upon it. So we have a very open policy to make sure that we do these type of things. So when you're looking at the internal way to do things, one thing that I do as a chief, I want to make sure that we're fair. We're a very fair department. We look at everything and we want to make sure that the process is fair, and we want to make sure that we have procedural justice and police legitimacy within an organization. And that's one of the biggest tenets that I always talk about when I came through the door. You have to have, if there's complaints within, there's morale issues, those are the things we need to address as quickly as possible. And when we see them, even if some of them might be unsubstantiated, sometimes if there are things, let's make sure that we improve them. And there's no organization that I've ever been in, even as perfect as some organizations can be, that when you're dealing with human beings, there's always going to be issues, there's going to be misunderstandings, and everything, and every department in this city and every entity we're talking about, we're going to have some of those things, and we have to address them. We're not perfect, but we're going to make sure that we take a look at them, and that's what we're doing. And we talk about these all the time, Councilwoman. And so these internal things they're not unique to Wilmington, but it's how we respond to them and make sure that we get a response back to some individuals that might not be unhappy the way things are. But I also do a review of this department informally, and there's a lot of individuals that are very happy the way things are going the last 5 years. And, I take that into account, but when I do have issues, we do talk about them every single week and how we can improve upon them.
And
Thank you very much. And I definitely am not for dumbing down the test. So thank you.
Okay.
And I'm done.
And I just want to just make a brief comment, and I know Councilmember Darby will be following up with her final round of questions. I do see a divergence. I see the WPD is saying one thing, council saying another, and that's going to be something that I don't think we're going to find agreement on tonight. So I just want to let council know that this is a negotiating item that will continue to have talks with the administration, because I think we're saying two different things. WPD thinks it's sufficient, council saying it's not, so we got to find some way to make this happen. All right, so I think that's unfortunately where we are tonight, but I don't think Chief is going to change his answer, I guess. But again, the floor is yours, Councilmember Darby, for just a final round of questions.
Yeah, I'm interested in the report, because I don't think council is involved at all with the audits, but interested in the reports to see if they address some of the concerns that we have about the police department, like more like out of all of the departments in the state, police funding per capita, there's 99% more of all the departments. Our department, there's more spending due to misconduct than 67% of the departments. And the number of officers per population per capita is just high. compared to other departments in our state. So I wonder if they're actually looking at those things and looking at the deadly force where there's more police killings by police. I forgot the statistics, more officers per population and 99%, more killings by police officers per arrest and 81% of departments. Like, these numbers aren't going down. And I'm concerned where more unarmed people are killed per arrest than 76% of departments in our own state, where these things aren't being addressed, where only 20% of civilian complaints were ruled in favor of civilians. So I don't know how this commission, they're addressing those community things. I don't see it when there's a commission of law enforcement related people. There's low community engagement, where I sat in one of the meetings and they ignored some of the concerns that the community was saying, and there's no council engagement, and you have to pay them to be a member, right? So this isn't an outside entity where they're not getting, it's like a membership. It's not like you pay them, it's a membership to be a part of this. And then the killer thing is all for Office of Violence Prevention, is not to do a full audit. So let's not put lies out there to people that say that this is to do an audit of the department. This is to see how they can work with the police department on establishing an Office of Violence Prevention. And there's a contract that I can share, and it states exactly what a kill is going to do with the community and what they're going to do with the police and what they're going to do with council. So let's not put out a false narrative that this is an audit. And thank you, I'm done.
Chief of Staff Washington, any final words on this?
Yes, the final word is that, we shouldn't put out a false narrative. So I don't pretend to even know where Councilmember Darby got her stats, but I think it's unfortunate that someone could just throw them out there as if they were fact. So before we hang our hat on anything of that nature, we really need to make sure that that's vetted as well. So I think you said it correctly, that we're not going to come to any agreement this evening, but it's unfortunate that someone could just throw out any type of stat and try to make it fact. Thank you.
Council President, this is the final comment on this question.
All right, thank you.
Floor is yours.
Just for everybody's information, I think that Councilwoman Darby just posted a link to where she got her information. So that can be researched. I guess I'm concerned because I didn't hear anyone from the administration call out the police department for putting out a narrative that doesn't even answer our question. I guess I want to know an answer. Council had a presentation done by a highly recommended, highly recognized and respected group that could come in and audit our police department. And we just want to know from the administration and from our police department, are you open to that audit? Not taking anything away from the Commission on Accreditation, but I want to know, is the police department and is the administration open to that audit? I guess that's just plain and simple. I would love for the administration. I think that you were invited to be a part of those meetings. I'm not sure if you took part in them or not, but it was really eye-opening. The amount of police departments that were open, nationwide, they were open to this group coming in and just doing an audit because they realized that there were issues and they realized that they could not fix them internally. And they wanted to be a better police department, but I'm not hearing that from our police department right now. I guess that's the frustrating part. I would never set up our police department to be audited by a group that just wants to hurt them. And that seems like there's so much pushback that it seems like that's our intent. But our intent is to help our police department be a better police department. And we can't do that internally. We can't ask police officers to ask our police officers how they feel because they don't feel protected. They don't feel that their concerns won't result in retaliation. So we need to have an outside entity as the one that came in and talked to council members to perform the audit so we can be better. I don't understand the concerns. I guess I don't understand the pushback, and that's even more scary. That's more frightening than anything, that our police department and our administration aren't welcoming this group with open arms. It's a group that wants to help. So that's my last comment, but hopefully council members will understand the importance of this audit and this group coming in to help our police department be a better police department. And we'll take it from there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much, Council President. Now moving on, so this is definitely, again, not to take this lightly, this is a question that is going to be hotly debated over the next month. So I think Council President knows this is a priority for council. So I think we'll have to pick up this conversation on a different day. So moving on, Chief Tracy, question 7. Can you explain the increase in overtime? This is approximately $213,000 increase over last budget year. You have a breakdown of where that's coming from?
Yeah, can we go to the next slide? So 2.64 in overtime funding is used across various division units went to Wilmington Police Department. So it's divisional overtime, including filling patrol investigative vacancies, crisis management tactical team, city-sponsored events, parks and recreation, drug organized crime and vice division, and special operations division and canine unit. And the $135,000 in civilian holiday overtime covers contractual requirements for the communications division personnel, and court overtime is used for officers who are required to appear in court. Where the overtime spending, if we just go to the next page, sir. The overtime spending has exceeded the FY2020 budget due to the following. In FY2022 budget, our overtime for the department was reduced by $290,000. So we actually had a reduction last year of coming into this year of what we usually spent. So we worked with OMB and we determined that if we restore almost $70,000 less than the $290, we could get back to where we were. And this has been constant across the 5 years. We did reduce it by $290. So if it had stayed the same, we're actually be on mark to be within our budget. So that is actually why you're seeing that. And I know Rob's on, he could probably explain in more detail what happened compared to this year versus last year.
Yeah, I mean, I can give a little bit more detail on that. What occurred last year was an attempt to sort of smooth out overtime spending relative to what we saw in prior years. So, we did that $290,000 decrease while at the same time moving around some of the different categories of overtime. This year we took a look at the exact same thing, saw that decrease wasn't, panning out exactly as it looked like it might have last year, and then worked with police to sort of reallocate that overtime again, try to make it, match actual usage as best we could.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Winkler. Now moving to question number 8, can you discuss the $1.4 million budget for the Real-Time Crime Center, and especially can you do the breakout regarding the neighborhood camera program and also the Shot Spotter and body worn camera programs as well?
Sure. If we go to the next slide. So the contractual increase to the contracted maintenance services, one of the reasons why we have budgeted those amounts. Currently, there are 100 cameras citywide. If we go by sectors, there's 18 cameras in Sector 1, 54 in Sector 2, and 28 in Sector 3. Sector 2 is a lot of cameras that we already inherited from the downtown unit where the camera program first started in the business district. Currently, there are a total of 5 employees covering 16-hour shifts, monitoring cameras on a 7-day coverage. This budget includes $330,000 allocated for a Shot Spotter for a yearly contract, and the budget includes $265,000 for the body-worn camera, which was funded in part in year 1 and part 2 through the federal grant. that we were rewarded. And every sworn officer has been trained and equipped with body worn camera as of date.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can you, questions on this? Can you move to slide 9? Just the questions about the consultant budget line.
Yeah, so the 143,000 budgeted consultants across the admin and public safety divisions. If you go to the next slide. Fitness for duty and psychological examinations, that's $12,000. The academy materials, as you can see, tests, psychological backgrounds is $57,000. CALEA, Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agents, that's $7,000. And the Youth Response Unit, that's $75,000. And you can see the measurement of success that we use the youth response clinicians that are trained in child and family traumatic stress and intervention model through a Yale study center. And then Youth Response Unit is a partnership with WPD, the Delaware Division of Prevention and Behavioral Health, a Seed of Hope Counseling. And the unit includes 2 full-time clinicians and a program coordinator to provide clinical support and outreach to children who are exposed to trauma. And then in E, we have just a victim service sign language line, a language line interpreter that for a yearly amount of $3,000.
Now, Chief, this youth response unit that has only small amount of funding, is that going to be one area that's going to be looked at when Akila Sorrells and the group comes in? Because it seems like it's not that big of a unit.
Actually, there are budgeted positions that are overall that are already in here. This is more where we're looking at when we're looking at some contractual increases and what the amounts are, but there are budgeted positions that we have in Wilmington Police Department. So the unit is a lot larger than this. This is just helping complement. It is certainly something that we always look at to make sure that they do great work. And they presented, I think, 3 times in the last year and a half before council on the good work with PowerPoints and what they can do for the community with the youth response unit and the overall crime victims team. So if we can always increase, we always look for money to see if we can increase because they do a great job. I don't know if when they do come in and take a look at that, if that's going to be one of their recommendations from the outside auditor coming in from Newark. But if it is, it certainly is something we'll take a look at.
Okay. Councilmember Darby.
Did we hit on the spot shotter yet? The shot spotter?
That was a previous slide on 8.
Yeah, I have a question about that. If we can go back really quick.
Sure.
To that slide. Do we provide that that data information for the public?
These are the shot spotter information. They're ongoing criminal investigations that we tie to other to active investigations. So at this time, we don't supply that to the public.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now moving to question 10, slide 10. Can you discuss the planned use of $750,000 for comp time payouts?
And if we go to the next slide, please. So the budgeting funded for comp time payouts is based upon department's attrition rate as well as anticipated retirements and contractual requirements. This is budgeted in coordination with the Office of Management and Budget.
All right, slide 11. Can you discuss the approximately $151,000 increase for the uniforms and ammo budget line?
Go to the next slide, sir. It goes for a breakout. You can see 110,000 for uniforms, equipment, sworn personnel, and communication personnel. You see $100,000 for a ballistic vest, which is a 50% match by the city, and grant fund recovers the other 50%. These vests have a shelf life of a few years, and we have to buy to make sure for liability and protection of officers have to be switched out and measured in so many years. $9,000 for the K9 unit. $4,500 for school crossing guard shoe allowance, that's contractual. The $5,700 is also contractual for a uniform shoe and the communications. The $70,000 for the motorcycle unit equipment for new riders and one replacement bomb suit. It's one fully equipped bomb suit costs about $50K with a life expectancy for 7 years. The $220,000 is Axon Taser equipment accessories. We're in year 2 and we've made them uniform as by request from the council across the board for 5 years. So we can understand what the costs are going to be every year, which was kind of up and down certain years. So now we've averaged it out. It'll be $220 a year. $25,000 uniforms equipment for the police cadet program, which we talked about earlier, and then $153,000 $500 for ammunition. And this is to make sure that we're accredited by COPT when we're firing it. And then the costs of ammunition with inflation and then actually access and the limitations on the amount of ammunitions out there, the costs have gone up exponentially.
All right, thank you very much, Chief. Councilmember Walsh.
Just a real quick question, Chief. Could you please tell me what a bomb suit does?
Inspector Ash, and if you don't mind.
No, that's fine. I don't care
Mr.
who
Chair,
answers.
can I have Inspector Ash? She's actually one of the subject matter experts in this.
So Councilwoman Walsh, it's the equipment that a bomb technician wears when we're deployed for any type of suspicious package where we believe it is a explosive device. So this is the suit that they wear to prevent injury if a bomb was to go off while they're examining it.
And it's been proven to work?
It has, but again, it's all dependent on the type of device, explosive that is used. But yes, it is a federally recognized tool by the FBI explosive ordnance specialists.
Okay, thanks. I'm familiar with everything else. I just wasn't familiar with that.
You're welcome, ma'am.
So I was curious. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Darby.
Yeah, I think I missed the first slide. What was the total for the grants on top of the $2.2 million dollar change increase they're getting for fiscal 23-22 year? Oh, okay, I thought we were on the how much grant money they were getting. I was on the wrong slide. I didn't know we were on question 11, so you can go to the next one.
Okay. All right. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I didn't see the question slide, so I thought we were on something different.
Okay, no problem. So now moving to slide 12, Chief Tracy, can you discuss the other fee account line? There's a slight increase there as well.
Yes, Mr. Chair. If we can go to the next slide. As you can see, the laboratory fees are $76,450, and this includes the DUIs. That's the driving under the influence and CID blood withdrawals. This increase is really due. Part of it is due to the average cost of about $1,000 a month for these laboratory fees. So inflation has hit it, and this is one of the things that we need to have, but unfortunately we can't control the costs when they go up each year, and part of the DNA processing. And also facility management fees, asset management contract, I think with all our facilities in the city that we use, goes up almost about 3% each year in the accounting generated services and dumpster collection. That's trash and recycling. We were able to pick up the garbage outside in our back lot with our own garbage trucks. Now has to be done with a special truck that's able to use those dumpsters, and I think this happens with a lot of other buildings within the city. Contracts will follow the fiscal year from July 1st to June 30th.
All right, thank you very much. On to slide 13, Chief Tracy. Can you give an update on authorize and receive grant funds for fiscal year 21 and 22? I know this is a topic we have discussed in public safety meeting at length. So do you have any updates for us as to where we are in terms of grants?
Yes, if you go to the next page, Mr. Chair. And then as you can see, listing down is the amount for each fiscal year. As you can see from the funds to combat violent crime from the state. You got the ED, and that's for the narcotic enforcement. You got the SALI, which is state aid to local law enforcement agencies, and that's for training and advanced training initiatives. And you got SLEEF, that's law enforcement funds. That's, you can see the items on each one going down. And then we got our yearly federal grants that we've talked about in a lot of our council meetings for the approval to accept these grants. And then what we've expended. And as you can see, some of them still from 2021, we've expended that amount, and you can see what's left in each one of these in the last column on the right.
Okay, all right. Councilmember Darby?
Yeah, so what's the total, the grand total of the grants that Wilmington PD has received?
We would have to add that up on the bottom, but we can get that answer back to you when we add out that column. Right now, I could do the math, but I'd be here for a couple of minutes, but we'll get that answer back to you, Councilwoman.
Okay, thank you.
And Chief Tracy, is the hope, I know we're gonna have this outside group come, the Newark, New Jersey group, is the hope that we'll be able to start to assess some other, I guess, policing alternative grants, such as community response teams and the violence interrupter, grants that are out there?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to take a look at whatever their assessment has. We'll certainly, with the administration and council, take a good look at all those things that they're suggesting. A lot of the grants, we can't be we're not the primary requester for the grant because we have a lot of stuff that's in with the state as far as, because we don't have our health and social services, we don't have the mental health. So we have to work in conjunction with a lot of the state programs. And then some of these outreach and community teams, where I've seen it done in other cities, it actually it would come out of the administration, and we would work jointly with them as far as that. So I'm sure it's something, if something comes out of this, or something that we come out on our own, we'll take a look at it, what line it'll come out of and whose budget.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for that rundown.
And I just had someone do back of the envelope math. So I think to answer Councilwoman Darby's, the overall grants that were received since 2021 adds up to $3,132,370.86. Approximately.
Thank you very much, Chief. Councilmember Darby.
Yes, thank you for the number. But yeah, when y'all get official numbers, you all can send them to me. But my other question, I wanted to clarify something that was said. You said that the consultant was going to come and probably work with them on alternatives for grants. That is not written into the contract. So I'm trying to understand, are we talking about, which contract are we talking about with the KIL? Because based on the contract, that's about establishing the Office of Violence Prevention, not about grants for police departments. So I'm trying to understand what you were referring to, if there's a different contract maybe?
Well, Councilwoman, I was actually answering the question from the chair of the Finance Committee, asking, would it be something that we would consider if they made recommendations? I don't know if they're going to make recommendations, but I would work with anybody that comes in, and as we look at it, if that's one of the suggestions, certainly going to take a look at it. I don't think they're going to work with us to get grants, but they might suggest that there's grants out there that can help with some of the programs that we have.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to confirm that that's not in the contract. Thank you.
No, I know that. I was answering the finance chair's question. Would we be amenable to looking at that? Absolutely. Any suggestions that come out from these outside auditors, we're absolutely take a look at.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, and just for clarity, Chief Tracy, the reason I asked the question, because I understand this was an initial phase 1 contract, but without disclosing too much, there's talk about additional phases to beyond the landscape analysis. And so that's why I just wanted to put it out there that there was some initial discussion about a phase 2 or phase 3 contract that would be more in-depth regarding grants. So I just wanted to put that out there. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Moving to slide 14, to discuss any proposed motor vehicle requests.
Yes, if we go to the next slide, sir. For the forensic services unit, it's 1 patrol vehicle and 1 crime scene response vehicle equipped with evidence storage scene and lighting. And this is very critical that they have this, because a lot of our cases that we could bring closure to victims and at a lot of crime scenes to connect the cases. This is one of the things that having a new crime scene response vehicle, it would help us out tremendously as we move forward in reducing crime. And then a street crimes unit, 1 patrol vehicle.
Thank you very much, Chief. We're actually, because we are running a little short on time, we've been quite long tonight, so I wanted to just skip 15 and 16. That, of course, the public can view on the City Council budget website. Okay, slides are there. Wanted to hit on 17 with the organizational chart. Are there any changes or comments on that?
No, sir.
Okay. And lastly, the 2% reduction budget picture. Is it safe to assume that the administration at this time is not ready with that response?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
If council was to look at things that would be on the chopping block, would it be newer programs such as the police cadet program?
Yeah, that would fit. That would fit as a part of that criteria for Msne. Exactly.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Councilmember Darby.
Yes, so I am trying to understand if we cut or eliminated 7 sworn police officer positions, and the department is still getting, I got all these papers in front of me, and they're get about $2 million increase from last year. Like, where is that? If we cut back on and got rid of some positions, what are we up on to get $2.2 million more for the police department?
So as we spoke before, although we're eliminating 7 positions, there's a new contract that's in place. There's contractual steps for raises that each and every officer may hit these certain stages. And as Rob Winkler talked about in the beginning, that's a big part of the increase in our budget because of pay increases.
Okay, I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, at this time, I would like to turn it to the public. I have seen the members of the public being very patient. They have their hands raised. So if they're ready, I can go to, I believe, Christina had her hand raised first.
Thank you, Chairman, for an opportunity to speak tonight. I just have a few questions, and I do understand that they will not be answered tonight, but I do want them to be on the record. So the first question that I have pertains to the set of statistics that Chief Tracy read off at the beginning of his presentation that indicate a sharp decrease in crime. I am wondering where those statistics came from, and I am wondering that because I have the CompStat year-end report for 2021 in my hand, which shows only a 13% decrease in shooting incidents year over year, and a 33% increase over a 2-year period. as well as showing a 26% increase in murders year over year and a 70% increase over a 2-year period. So just wondering, again, like I said, this is straight off of the CompStat end of year 2021 report. So I'm just wondering where those statistics that he read off at the beginning are coming from. My second question, more or less is a statement. I'll be honest with you, but it is in regards to both the CALIA accreditation and consent decrees that Chief Tracy spoke about. Just for the record, Delaware State Police is currently under a consent decree for proven discriminatory testing procedures in their hiring process. They are also CALIA accredited. So I do want to make sure that that is on the record, that this CALIA accreditation does not hold the weight that it has been stated here tonight. And also that, as Councilwoman Darby said, this CALIA accreditation is something that we are paying for, meaning we cannot possibly expect an unbiased result to come out of that. If you have to pay for it, it's probably going to be biased a little bit, even just a little bit. So I'm highly concerned that, the public has kind of been fed some misinformation here tonight. And I'm more concerned with the perceived combativeness to any pushback, both from, the chief and from the administration that we've witnessed here tonight. That's highly concerning to me. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now, I believe up next, Mr. Donald Farrell.
Yes. First off, I'd like to thank Chief Tracy and his officers for the work that you're doing. Specifically, I'd like to ask about the grants, the violence prevention grant and the grant going to the gentleman from Newark. I'd like to know if there will be any metrics created to determine if the money is being well spent. Now, I ask this because too many times these efforts are too top heavy on overhead and light on actual program. So I'm curious what metrics will be used to determine if the intended expectations and results have been realized. Regarding recruits, I realize that staffing a recruit class is difficult, but we're not that desperate to recruit gypsy officers, I hope, who have been released from other jurisdictions. I ask because one officer was recently released for excessive force. I'm talking about the one over in South Bridge. And it appears that he slipped through the screening process. And I'd like to know, Chief, is it a function of the collective bargaining agreement to accept gypsy officers with questionable past? Also, besides not carrying and providing and administering Narcan, what substance abuse services that are provided by the Wilmington Police Department that you refer to? I'd like to know if it's a function of the collective bargaining agreement why officers don't carry, provide, or administer Narcan. And my other question is, do the school districts where the SROs are stationed pay the cost? And I'd like to know if the housing developments where officers are stationed, who pays that cost? Regarding operational strength, there was nothing listed reflecting the officers recently released. Where or why aren't those numbers reflected in your operational numbers, Chief? And finally, I'd like to ask about the real-time data center in CommStat. If officers respond to overdose calls with the Wilmington Fire Department, how much would it cost to add another data point to include overdoses? And again, Chief, thank you very much for what you do. And I'd like to give a shout out to Officer Msne. I worked with homeless folks, and he was really a good guy helping out this lady. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now turning it back, this first, is there a last call for members of the public? Any comments or questions? Again, I know this is a lengthy meeting, so you're not limited to only this meeting. So you can always go on the City Council budget website, shoot your information to either me or Council President Congo, as we do read every entry. I do have a Kendra McDowell.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Kendra McDowell. I live in the 1st District currently. My comment is towards the accreditation program or whatever you guys are having. I remember, I believe it was last year, there was held a public meeting for members of the community to give their thoughts and feelings towards Wilmington Police and the way that they operate. While we all was in this meeting, it was a lady who was in charge of the meeting, and she basically shoved all the community people who were speaking, basically told us that our opinion didn't matter, even though we had proof. So I find it hard to believe that the accreditation is like something that is helpful in our community. I think that it will always go in the favor of Wilmington Police. And I have an issue with that because we need for somebody to come in and do an outside audit, not someone that is referred to from the police or any police agency. We need somebody to come in who doesn't have any affiliation to any police agencies as far as close to us to come in and do an audit, because it's always going to be biased. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And again, last call for live comments from members of the public. All right, going once, going twice. I'm going to kick it back to members of council for any final comments or questions. Councilmember Darby.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on one thing back to the shot spotter. I don't know if it could be answered tonight, but on the data, I know current data can't be released, but past data where the investigations are complete, is that being released to the public? And if not, when will it be?
Chief?
A lot of times these are still long-term investigations. There's new information that comes out from these. We got victims. We have also witnesses that are going long-time investigation. So the answer is no at this time.
All right. Again, any final comments or questions from members of council? All right. Seeing none, I did want to make some brief comments. I've sat and listened. I haven't made too many comments, but you know, the conversation that happened tonight is exactly why council has prioritized working with the administration to make it offensive violence prevention. I think it's already been studied and the stats are out there. You know, American cities put too much in the hands of police and law enforcement officers. So I think, you know, again, officers will always have a role, but, you know, looking forward as a city, I would love it 5 years from now. You know, we have a robust discussion with the Office of Violence Prevention's budget hearing, and we go through what they're doing and, you know, with the role they have to play in terms of public safety. So, you know, I thank the chief for fielding his questions. And I believe there are some questions that we still need to answer, but as a city, I think we need to be smarter than other cities and really go all in terms of policing alternatives and violence intervention. Because obviously in America, as heavily policed as America is, if more police equal more safety, then we'd be the safest country in the world. So, you know, again, I think we got to think outside the box. And this goes to talking about civilian review boards and everything. That's all tied in with policing. I think we need to get away from that and focus on violence prevention, which is, I know the group from Newark, New Jersey will be helping the city to really put this plan in action. So I look forward to it. I believe Chief Tracy said they're going to be here next week or the next few weeks, I believe. They're going to be coming.
The 18th and the 19th.
Okay, perfect. So so again, I invite all those to pay close attention as we will hopefully have some more announcements after that. But this is a turning point for Wilmington, I believe, as the numbers are getting better. And I think they have a lot of room to grow. So thank you again for everyone being engaged in the police department's budget hearings and also fire department as well. So I again thank Chief Tracy, Inspector Ash, Inspector Emery, Dr. Karras for presenting, also Mr. Winkler and Chief of Staff Tanny Washington. Any follow-up information will of course be answered by Ms. Bassland from City Council. I don't want to forget anybody. Council Member Fields, I believe you had a brief comment, closing comment.
I just had a quick question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you please provide me with the protocol for budget hearings? I don't know if I still have it. I don't know if we were sent that, but I just want to know what the protocol, what the protocols are for these types of meetings. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Thank you, Chief Tracy, and thank you to the fire department, as the police department and the fire department for speaking tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Council Member. And with that, again, I'd like to thank everyone and also WITN and City Council staff for staying with us late tonight, and members of the public for being engaged and continuing to press both City Council and administration about what our plans of action are. So with that, the next budget hearings are scheduled for this upcoming Wednesday, April 6th. So we move right along. We're going to have land use and planning at 4:30 p.m. And we're going to have a slight schedule revision. Real estate and housing will begin at 6 p.m. and license and inspection will begin after that. So I just wanted to, there'll be a slight change, but that will be posted soon. Land use and planning is a new department, so we definitely want to give that time. And then real estate and housing, I believe there's going to be some robust questions and answers on that as well. All right, so with that, again, everyone can tune into WITN channel 22, which is WITN22.org for more budget information, or the website is wilmdebudget.org. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. Tonight's police department budget hearing has concluded. And again, please stay engaged. Please send questions to us as we work this budget process. See everyone Wednesday evening. Take care.
Sure.